Welcome to the Fandom Podcast Network's special presentation of Time Warp 1995, The Movies, Part 3. In this special edition of Time Warp, we'll cover the year in movies and pop culture for 1995. Over the past few years here at the Fandom Podcast Network, we've celebrated the movies of the 80s, and last year we stepped in the year of 93. But this year, the movies of 1995 celebrate their 25th anniversary, so we decided to time travel back to the 90s again, and look back on this fantastic year of movies and pop culture for 1995. Welcome to part 3 of 4 of Time Warp 1995, the movies. In this episode, we will cover the movies released in the months of July, August, and September of 95. I'm Kevin, one of your hosts, and I'd like to introduce my co-host for this time travel journey back to 1995. With me, as usual, and pretty much always, is, of course, my fellow co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, and, of course, co-host of many other shows, including Culture Clash, is Kyle Wagner. Welcome, Kyle.
I feel clueless in this Waterworld, but I'm ready for some Mortal Kombat.
Well played, sir. Let's see if Lee Norwegian Smooth, my co-host for Blood of Kings, has a better, introduction there, Lee.
I am looking for a man who calls himself Reitzel, but you had to do it the hard way.
Well played, Desperado.
Thank you.
And of course, we love doing time warps, of course, with my lovely fiance, Erin Gill. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? You're all out going to see movies and having fun in the sun, and I'm still in lockdown. But by the end of it, I will be a showgirl when I come out.
We
Thank you
have
for that.
Kevin,
Lee had to do his little showgirl movement there.
I know. I was doing it, but you can't see it. So there you go.
We can have violent Aaron by the end of this podcast. It's a little scary.
I wanted to say what else you said, but I was too R-rated or X-rated
What were you saying, Kyle?
I said we could have violent Aaron by the end of this podcast.
Yes, this is true.
It's true. Can I say what she says to him?
Not if it's not PG. Well, thank you guys for first of all joining me here on another episode of Time Warp, where we love to look back and celebrate our favorite films and fandom throughout the years. Let's tell people where we are, Kyle, and of course we're really excited right now because we're on a couple of new platforms and a big one as well.
Yeah, right now I'd like to get a time warp because there's 2 hurricanes that might be coming down on me at the same time. I feel a little George Clooney-ish, actually. But, this is Time Warp on the Fandom Podcast Network, and you can find the Fandom Podcast Network, of course, starting at its home on fpnet.podbean.com, where you can find the master feed for all of the shows. Of course, if you're using a mobile device, you can download the Podbean app and search for the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and now Amazon Music. So
very nice.
We got one more we're working on. I'm waiting to see. They're dragging their feet, but hopefully soon. But you can find us in all those great places. Of course, you can visit our Facebook page, Fandom Podcast Network, where we keep you updated on all the events going on in fandom. You can email us directly if you would like to throw in some ideas or advice at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Of course, you can follow us also on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network or on Twitter at FanPod Network. Of course, I'm Kyle. You can follow me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where are you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix.
And Lee, besides your dulcet tones on Blood of Kings, where can we find you on social
You can find me on
media?
Twitter and Instagram at The Way of the Way, just underscores in between The Way of the Way on Instagram.
And Aaron, before you take
at dulcet tones,
yes, at dulcet tones.
Exactly. Yes. And Aaron, before you either take a few heads or pull out Mr. Spiky, can you tell us where we can find you on social media?
What? Yes, you can find me under Audrey Worm on Instagram.
And of course, there are some great ways you can support the Fandom Podcast Network and Time Warp. First and foremost, we have a new YouTube channel. Please go to the YouTube, search for the Fandom Podcast Network channel, and subscribe. We're posting all of our audio podcasts, plus we have live shows, including now Culture Clash Live on the YouTube channel, where, yes, you can see Kevin and I's No, we're sorry. You can see Kevin and I's face live and in person on YouTube. Also, too, Apple Podcasts on iTunes. We love to get those 5-star reviews, but we love the reviews in general. They help get us out there a little more. And you know what? We love the input because, as always, we're striving to give you podcasts to better feed your ears. And of course, finally, we have our TeePublic store where you can find the gear of the Fandom Podcast Network, whether it's this show, Culture Clash, The End Zone, Blood of Kings, all the great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. We've got all the logos there. You can get them on t-shirts, mugs, tapestries, even masks, because we like our listeners to be protected, because we love our listeners. But Kevin, with that, will you open up the flux capacitor and get this podcast started?
All right. Thank you, first of all, and everyone out there. Thank you guys for joining us for this special episode of Time Warp 1995. But first, let's take a step back to 1995. Let's fuel up that DeLorean with the flux capacitor, slingshot around the sun aboard a captured bird of prey, take a step into that blue police box or most excellent phone booth, or one of my favorites, take a dip in that hot tub time machine as we travel back to 1995 and remind us what was happening in pop culture, sports, politics, television, and the movies during the middle of the 90s decade. Whoa, got some wobbly feet there, Kyle. That was a good one, man.
A little wibbly wobbly is good for everybody.
Okay, so because we have Erin here, I was asking her, Erin, find anything fun about Australia in 1995? And she came back just recently and said, I got nothing. It was boring. Besides, I wasn't living here.
Yeah, I was looking through. Well, I wasn't here. I was on your side of the earth.
So yeah, tell us what happened. Why weren't you in Australia?
I was here for part of it. I think it was. I was here for little bits of it. I kept going back to staying in LA for about 3 months or 4 months and then come back. So I don't know. Just nothing exciting happened. About as exciting as it got was a talking pig. And that was it. Oh, I think there was a girl who died of ecstasy. That was the big, oh, my God. I think she just overdosed on water. But that was probably about the biggest excitement that happened in Australia. At least it wasn't PCP.
Kevin, as I learned from another podcast on this wonderful network, we all know Erin was here for the Feldman.
The Feldman. Yes, she fed grapes to him. So, yeah.
What?
You must listen to the upcoming Couch Potato Theater Lost Boys podcast to get the full scoop on Erin Gill and Corey Feldman.
Talk about cross-promotion.
So, Erin, you were in... Erin, you were in the States at this time mostly.
Yes, I was. Gotcha. And then I was. I would come back. So no, I couldn't. There's nothing standing out. No serial killers. No disasters. Just a lot of politics. That's a bit.
Okay.
And
all right. Well, that's fine.
That was about it, really. Yeah. Even our movies pretty much were a yawn.
All right, well, here in the States, of course, Clinton was president with Vice President Al Gore. Average cost of a new house was about $113,000. The postage stamp was 32 cents. Loaf of bread was about $2. But we got some notable events here in 95. First of all, there was the Midwestern, in July, the Midwestern United States heat wave. An unprecedented heat wave strikes the Midwestern United States for most of the month. Temperatures peaked at 106 degrees, 41 degrees Celsius for you, Erin, and remain above 94 degrees in the afternoon for 5 straight days. At least 739 people die in Chicago alone. Do you remember that at all, Lee?
Oh, yeah. This was one of those times I was very happy to be working in a movie theater because those very dark, cold rooms, I would wake up in the morning and get to work early. Very rare for me to do that, even as a grown-up. But, this was pretty miserable. And I actually went to camp my last year as a counselor for a week during this. And that was just a whole lot of not fun.
Gotcha.
When the pool is sweaty, it's bad.
You're wanting Jason Voorhees to turn up.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Be nice to see that little guy.
On July 5th, the U.S. Congress passed the Child Protection and Obscenity Enforcement Act, requiring all producers of pornography keep records of all models who are filmed or photographed, and that all models be at least 18 years of age. Was this like the Tracy Lords Act?
That's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well, and the thing is like Tracy Lords, like she was the one that violated that. It wasn't any of the producers. Like she stole her cousin's ID or something and looked just like her. So they could have still complied with this and not done it right.
Yeah. July 23rd, David Dibretti and William Barloon, 2 Americans held as spies by Iraq, are released by Saddam Hussein after negotiations with U.S. Congressman Bill Richardson. August 6th, hundreds of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Washington, D.C., and Tokyo marked the 50th anniversary of the dropping of the atomic bomb. And August 24th, Microsoft releases Windows 95. Kyle, do you remember this?
The world was never the same. This was probably the closest thing to the modernizing of the Windows we know now.
Yeah.
It kind of, a lot of people consider like, okay, Windows 95 was the first real true Windows as far as the general culture understanding and being able to use Windows.
Yeah, I didn't get my first computer till I want to say 96 to 97, but mine was an Apple. So yeah, I didn't get that. Of course, I got it just to play video games and get email.
We had a 95, which my dad bought off some kid that hadn't like got rid of anything. Like he just bought this computer off like some friend's son. So it had all this crap on it. It was a bit of porn. But he had Virtual Girl, and this girl would come out and sort of strip and then walk off the screen again. And Dad got really annoyed when we changed the computers over. He's like, where's Virtual Girl? That's what he loved. Virtual Girl. He would walk out. She'd sort of take her jacket off and walk back off again. And I'm like, oh my God, that's all he cared about. Virtual Girl.
September, the Unabomber Manifesto is published. Washington Post and New York Times published the Unabomber's Manifesto. That was so he would stop bombing stuff. And it was a very long manifesto. Then eventually he did get caught there. But I remember this, Kyle, very well. September 6th, Cal Ripken Jr. of the Baltimore Orioles breaks the all-time consecutive games played record in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, the man who saved baseball, because baseball was coming off of the strike that they had just had. And this was the only thing at this season that the fans really had looking forward to. And it's still, in my opinion, one of the greatest moments in professional sports. How Cal Ripken handled himself, the class he handled himself, stopping and taking a lap around the whole field. I actually watched the game it was a national televised game on ESPN. A great moment and one of the classier players in professional sports, period. In Cal
Agreed,
Ripken.
the Iron Man of baseball. Yeah. Also, too, there was a reminder, we had the Super Bowl where the San Francisco Niners became the first National Football League franchise to win 5 Super Bowls as they defeat the San Diego Chargers at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, Florida.
That was a blowout.
It was a blowout. But let's get some tech here. We love talking 95 tech, and we have a bunch of good ones here. And this one, I don't know if I remember if I knew anyone that had one. This is the Motorola Tango pager. Remember the world's first two-way pager? Probably not, but Motorola can take credit for setting off the movement with the Tango. Limited in features, the device did allow users to receive text messages and email, as well as reply with standard responses. But what really made it such a groundbreaking device was its ability to connect to a computer and download longer messages. The Tango would soon lead to Moto's 2 greatest inventions of the decade, the StarTAC and PageWriter 2000. Lee, you seem to be a guy that had a pager.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. I had a little gold chain, keep it on my belt. I was.
I can't tell if you're messing with me or not.
No, unfortunately, that's all true. I just thought I was as cool as possible once I got that pager on my belt. It was, and basically the same 5 people paged me. Nobody else.
Aaron, I heard that Australia takes a few years to catch up to the technology. So you guys actually didn't get pagers till 2010. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty. No, we haven't had them yet. We're still on a can and a bit of string.
She's calling from her Zach Morris phone right now.
Yeah. No, when did pagers, if anything, become popular in Australia?
Oh, I have no idea. I never had one. So it was like the only people you saw with pagers were doctors. And that kept going into like now.
I thought it was doctors and drug dealers.
Oh, I don't know. Back then. Why would I know that? No. I never saw. I only saw them in America. I have friends of mine. My friend Todd. Todd and Carlos had pages, but it was not a real. I don't know. I don't think we cared, or we just.
Kyle, did you have a pager?
Never owned a pager. Really. By 95, I was down here, but it was one of those things. It's just like, I have no reason to own a pager. The
only time I had a pager was when I moved to Virginia in 99 and I was working for that game company and I was traveling all the time. They gave me a pager. So they could send me messages and stuff, but it was weird because like a year later they were replaced because everyone started getting their own cell phones and stuff. So, yeah.
I do remember when I was fighting, I would page my buddies and I would, if I won my match or whatever, I would send 1337, which when you read it upside down reads as Lee 1. So that was my
just to clarify, you started off by saying when I was fighting, you were doing martial arts.
Yes.
Okay. Lee 1, I like that.
Yeah, but so I just remembered that as I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing that a couple times, and then passing out right after. Did you do
8008S? I always did that.
No, it was more 53180008.
Okay. I wonder if anyone got that. Okay.
I think all boys of our generation know exactly.
Yeah, it was the first thing you did on a calculator. There you go. Turned it upside down.
Oh my god.
All right. We also had the Sony Handycam DCR, labeled the grandfather of digital cameras. The Handyman DCR set the standard for digital video recording with its unparalleled resolution and video output. The lens on this thing captured 410,000 pixels through horizontal resolution. Its ability to transfer video data onto computers, both Windows and Mac, through IEEE 1394 FireWire was also considered a milestone. Plus, it was the first to support the mini DV format of the 3CCD color processor technology. Many consider it to be the premier action sports camera, as the device was known for capturing stunning live action footage from X Games-esque events such as motocross and snowboarding. If you guys take a picture of this thing or you Google it, I remember seeing a lot of these after a while. They got so popular. Do you remember these, Lee?
Yeah, we've actually got a few at local prop house here. Whenever you have to do like kind of a retro thing in town, we go to this place, and I'm just looking at this, and I remember we used these on a movie I did about 3 years ago because we're setting it in the mid 90s, and I just I remember.
Were they all still working?
Yeah,
wow.
You know, I mean, Sony makes them to last. I've got 2 Sony camcorders from 2000 that still run. Nice. Batteries still work, and they still, they record on high 8 and it's like at the time a megapixel was huge. This is about 0.4 of a megapixel for this. So just now my standard camera has 24 megapixels. Like it's just kind of crazy how much more resolution there is now than there was then.
So another thing that came out, and I didn't realize this. I didn't realize it had been out this long, and I finally know what it stands for, and that's the USB cord. When originally introduced back in 1995 by Intel, the Universal Serial Bus USB ran at a measly 12 Mbps. That's both incomparable and laughable to today's 5 Gbps speed rate. The USB is still considered the most successful interconnect device ever and has played a vital role in how we access, store, and transfer data, as well as power devices and connect peripherals such as controllers and mice. The rest is history. Kyle, When did you use your first USB, or excuse me, Universal Serial Bus?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. No, I mean, I think one of the things a lot of people bought when they first bought their first computer during this time was they went out and bought a USB bus, because most computers maybe came with two, and one of them you always was eaten up by the mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So everybody would go buy a USB bus, and it's like, oh, I have 3 USBs now.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, I mean, this was the game changer, and to this day, it's pretty much. It might have shrunk in size between going from standard to micro to mini micro to like microscopic now, almost the way size some of these are, but it is still by far the most common used computer device out there.
Yep. And the last device we have here is the IBM ThinkPad 701C. Kind of a little small laptop. IBM's legendary laptop set the mold for portable computers with its near indestructible construction and radical butterfly keyboard design. The ThinkPad 701C redefined the user's experience by ditching the trackball mechanism in exchange for a joystick pointer, a feature that's become a signature component to the series and provides better navigation accuracy than most of the trackpads found on today's Ultrabooks. There's a reason why it was the best-selling laptop of 1995. There you go. All right, we like to cover the toys of 95. We pick a few to talk about here. First of all, we've got the Super Jenny Gymnastics doll by Mattel. That was $45.95. We also had the Talking Family Dollhouse. Manufacturer was Tyco for $69.99. The Winnie the Pooh Foamy Tree House, price at $14.99. And the Saved by the Bell, the New Class game, price was $14.99. I'm sorry, Kyle's doing a Zach Morris timeout. Yes, Kyle?
They couldn't even make a regular Saved by the Bell board game. They had to do the New Class. No, Kelly Kapowski, what are you talking about? That doesn't exist.
No, Kelly was involved in this, but she was a teacher or something.
So I looked on eBay for this, and you can find them for around $20-ish, minus shipping here, some shipping there. But it's basically a board game here with funny little cards, and you go around the board, and there's Saved by the Bell funny stuff going on, but I don't remember this at all. And I remember the show. I did watch the show, but yeah, I never. Did you know about this, Kyle?
I had no idea about this. I think the only thing I remember from Saved by the Bell, the new class, was Natalie Sigaludi. That's about it.
Yes, this is true. And I got to ask you about this last toy, Kyle, the VRTX Virtual Experience. Manufacturer was Tiger for $24.99. A small electronic game that had 3-dimensional holographic game project images onto a backlit LCD screen with sound effects. Games available include Daytona US and Congo.
I was busy with my handheld Oregon Trail. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I was busy with playing my handheld Oregon Trail game.
You said Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure.
Your handheld organ just does not sound right.
Was one of the
Lee said it, I didn't. Okay, there we go. All right, let's get into another fun segment here that we always like, and that's 1995, the music. We've got some news and stuff that made some notable events.
But was she passed by then?
In July, the members of
died?
TLC filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, declaring debts of over $3.5 million because their manager, Pebbles, was raking in the money and not giving them much because the contract that they signed was not a good one.
Rule of thumb: never mess with left. I was gonna say.
What was that, Aaron?
I was gonna say real quick.
Sorry,
rule of thumb: I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
Never mess with left eye. Just ask Andre Rison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is true. No, not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, this was the same summer that Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls came out. So
yes, yeah. And if you ever watch the behind the music, they talk about this. And Pebbles, who was a recording artist herself, she was just saying, "Hey, the contract was there. We put it out there for it, and They barely made any money, and then of course all of the touring and everything had to come out of the money that they made, and it was they didn't make anything, so they filed for bankruptcy. July 9th, Grateful Dead performs its final show with Jerry Garcia at Soldier Field in Chicago. He dies 1 month later of a heart attack at age 53. Thus, the Ben and Jerry's ice cream came out, right?
Yep.
Yeah. July 14th, George Michael and Sony Music complete their split. In 1994, Michael lost a lawsuit seeking to be released from his Sony contract, but he vowed to never sing for the company again. Michael will now record for the new label DreamWorks Records. Now, Aaron, I'm sure you remember this. Robbie Williams, July 17th, announces he is quitting Take That.
Oh, the drama. Because
Talk to that, please.
Well, I don't think he's that big in America. He was massive in Australia and England, of course, and they had that really massive single just before this happened, Back for Good, which was their biggest single.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with Take That,
the
thing with Take That, other than some of the other manufactured boy bands, is that they actually wrote their music. Like, they did a couple of covers, but they actually wrote their own songs, and Gary Barlow made a killing because he was the songwriter. And you had the three boys that danced and the two boys that could sing. But
so
Robbie Williams,
the other one you spoke of was the other singer, right?
Yes, Gary Barlow was the main singer, and then Robbie Williams was always the sort of, the larrikin, and he was the bad boy,
the sexy bad boy.
Yeah, and he left, and then they sort of stayed around for a little bit, but then they actually split themselves, and they had to do a suicide hotline in the UK because girls were going to kill themselves. It was that huge. Wow. It was massive. And they were sort of the first. I mean, you had your American boy bands, but for England, before they had sort of the ones that come out of Ireland and stuff like that, Boyzone and things like that, they were massive. And I've seen Robbie Williams live. I love Robbie Williams, a favourite of mine.
Oh, his 99 album, The Ego Has Landed, is still one of my favorite albums of all time.
Well, I was in the UK in 97 when he brought out Angels, and that just it just went over the edge. He just became massive.
Kyle, did you have what you want to say?
Well, I was just going to say about Robbie Williams, one of the songs I remember from his solo career, because it was at a really cool video, was Rock DJ.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then they pull all his skin off.
He never quite hit it that big here in the States. Millennium was popular and stuff like that. But what's funny is when I went to go visit Aaron in Australia, we actually saw Robbie Williams headline a show out there at a festival.
In the wrong place, but there you go.
Yeah, it wasn't the best venue, outside, dirty, but man, boy, did he pack in the crowd still.
Yeah.
But he's a great showman. I've seen him live, and it doesn't matter. He came out, I remember seeing him in another venue. It was excellent. And he came out and he hit a bung note, and he just was like, laughed it off, and then he got people up and sung, and he's a showman.
And now he's clean and sober, and he's got.
And he got back with that because it was a massive breakup, and he even wrote a couple of songs on that album of the breakup with Take That. It got really nasty. And then, of course, about 15 years later, they joined back in and write a song saying, we're too old to fight now and we love each other. And he came back and he did a couple of tours with them. And it was sort of all was forgiven.
July 18th, Selena became the first Hispanic singer to have an album debut and peak at number 1 on the U.S. Billboard 200 chart. She also became the first and only female singer to place 5 albums simultaneously on the Billboard 200 chart.
Obviously before she got murdered.
Yes. August 9th, Kiss performed on MTV Unplugged. I remember this because I was watching it. The band's current lineup was joined by original members Peter Criss and Ace Frehley, setting the stage for the band's reunion tour the following year, where they went full makeup again. And I remember going to that concert. It was pretty cool.
That was a hell of a tour that year.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. This is interesting. Punk's starting to come back again, but kind of a pop punk here. Rancid released their 3rd studio album, along with Green Day's Dookie and Offspring's Smash. The album helped revive mainstream popular interest in punk rock in the mid-90s and became one of the best-selling records of all time. That was I think that was Green Day's and Offspring's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that. I remember the Green Day Dookie album. That thing was just really, really popular. Do you remember that, Lee?
Everywhere. Oh, yeah. God, that was... Yeah. You could not go 5 minutes without hearing, "Do you have that time?"
Yeah.
Like,
listen to me whine.
Oh, God, yeah. I am flashing back to my pager, right now, not my 1995 self. That there is no underestimating how prevalent that album was for everybody that year.
Huge. It was huge. Also, on August 28th, Oingo Boingo announced that they will break up following a series of Halloween shows in Los Angeles. Lead singer Danny Elfman has established a career scoring motion pictures. Of course, we know that. I actually remember this. Band members Al Jorgensen and Mike Scasia, I don't know how you say his last name, are arrested for heroin possession in 2 separate incidents in Texas. And September 1st, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame opens in Cleveland. That was a big weekend. But this is the fun part about music, guys, is that we take of the top 100 music hits of 95, we take a section of them for each of these shows, and we got 25 we're going to go over real quick, and I just want you guys to go around and pick a few that you liked. We're going to do songs that were 49 through 26, and the first ones are I Want to Be Down by Brandy, Sukiyaki by 4 p.m., Big Papa by the Notorious B.I.G., Before I Let You Go by Backstreet Boys, I think it is.
No, it was Blackstreet.
Blackstreet.
It was just Blackstreet? Okay.
Yep.
Every Little Thing I Do by Soul for Real. I remember that. I'm the Only One by Melissa Etheridge. Shy Guy by Diana King. I'll Be There For You, You're All I Need to Get By Method Man featuring Mary J. Blige. December by Collective Soul. He's Mine by Mo Kunstef. As I Lay Me Down by Sophie B. Hawkins. Oh, I remember that song. Runaway by Real McCoy. Baby by Brandy. I Got 5 on It by Lunas. In the House of Stone and Light by Martin Page. If You Love Me by Brownstone. Only Want to Be With You by Hootie and the Blowfish. Someone to Love by John B. Colors of the Wind, Vanessa Williams. Strong Enough by Sheryl Crow. Runaway by Janet Jackson. Red Light Special by TLC. I Believe, Blessed Union of Souls, and Let Her Cry by Hootie and the Blowfish. So of the 25, Hootie's got 2. Kyle, do you remember any of these, and do you like some of these?
Oh, there's a few on here I like, but this was the time when Hootie and the Blowfish was starting to just take over the world of music. You couldn't get anywhere without hearing Hootie on the radio. But
it's true.
A few that stand out for me. I'm the Only One by Melissa Etheridge. That got huge play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it did. Good song.
Yeah. I remember Runaway by Real McCoy. Like you, I also remember As I Lay Me Down by Sophie B. Hawkins. You've got Colors of the Wind from the Pocahontas soundtrack by Vanessa Williams. Runaway by Janet Jackson. Red Light Special TLC. And I Believe by Blessed Union of Souls. And I was also a fan of the song In the House of Stone and Light by Martin Page.
I don't remember that one. I'm having trouble remembering that one. What about you, Lee?
I mean, again, Hootie and the Blowfish, that's just the soundtrack for 95, 96. I did like the joke in the Ted movie, how you don't need to have consonants, you just keep on saying vowels. And he did I Only Want to Be With You by just singing A-I-O-U, A-I-O-U. Just does the whole song that way. I thought, okay, that's brilliant. Big Papa. That one was just that you could not go to a party and not hear that song. I mean, that was just even today. Like if you're at a house party, Big Papa will come on. Just classic. You just can't beat that one. What was the one? I Got 5 on It. That was another one. It was fun. I mean, you'd drive your car around, you pretend that you were a gangster, and you'd play that one.
Right. Aaron, was any of these that jumped out at you?
I have to hear them. I don't know any of these titles. I know the Hootie and the Blowfish were massive, and it was mainly, of course, again, didn't Courtney Cox date the lead singer for a second? When, because they were on, there was that, they were on Friends, or they were mentioned on Friends, that they went to a concert.
The Hootie concert or something like that. Yeah.
And So I think it must have been Alanis Morissette had her album out, and I probably had it on continuous loop and didn't hear anything else because I don't know. I'd have to hear these songs to go, oh, okay, but I don't know the titles.
Yeah, it's funny because there's several of these songs here that I know that if it was played, I would go, oh, that's that band.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't remember their name. But I was getting really sick of Hootie. I really was. I could not get Hootie. But I remember I Want to Be Down by Brandy. I thought Brandy was really cute. I remember that. What was it? The Sophie B. Hawkins. I remember that video, As I Lay Me Down. Oh, gosh, what else? That
was also a good inside joke on Community. Britta accidentally sets up a Sophie B. Hawkins instead of a Sadie Hawkins dance.
Oh, how funny.
And Sophie B. Hawkins ends up showing up at the end of the thing, and they're like, do you have any requests? And everyone only knows this song.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, let's head into some TV news here. Now, with this months that we're covering, of course, July, August, September, that means that we are near... September's always sweeps month because that's when all the shows come back or the new shows premiere. And there's a lot on here, but I want to talk about some of the top-rated shows, of course, here in 95. And, of course, ER was the top one at 1, Seinfeld with 2, Friends 3, Carolina City 4, Monday Night Football 5, followed by The Single Guy, Home Improvement, Boston Common, 60 Minutes, NYPD Blue, 2020, Frasier, Grace Under Fire, NBC, Monday Movie, Coach, The Nanny, Roseanne, Walker, Texas Ranger, a bunch of them here, 30 Rock from the Sun, all of these in the top 30 here. Lee, which one did you watch the most here?
Walker, Texas Ranger. I had the weird work schedule. I just graduated, so I was working and partying as much as possible. And about the only time I was ever home was about 4:00 on Saturday afternoon. And that was when you would have Walker, Texas Ranger, Renegade, Highlander, and the Hercules and Xena Power Hour, whatever that was.
So there was a lot of trench coats being worn and dusters. So yeah, I gotcha.
And lots of long hair.
Yes.
So Adam O'Brien would have loved it.
Aaron, you're in the States during this time. Did you happen to catch any of these, or were you having a real life?
No, well, it would have been Friends. ER. I think I've watched every single episode of ER from when it started to it finished, and that was massive. That was the big one.
Kyle was a big fan too of ER, right?
Oh, I absolutely loved ER. You look at this list, though, it is amazing how powerful NBC was at this time because 4 out of the top 5 are NBC shows that were on Thursday night. Plus, you have Frasier down at number 12. You have Boston Common in there. It was NBC just dominated, especially on that Thursday night lineup.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and even whatever movie they played on Monday night got big ratings too. So yeah,
surprised Carolina and the City was so big. Was it really that big?
Yeah,
it was fun. Leah Thompson.
Yeah, Leah Thompson. Come on, woof. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So we had a lot of TV premiere. There's a lot. I'm not going to mention all of them here, but Road Rules MTV came out. Squawk Box, Aeon Flux, Sailor Moon went into syndication. What else we got here? Oh, I remember the cartoon, the show Bananas in Pajamas. We got Freakazoid, Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, Hang Time, Space Strikers on UPN Kids, Danny, Gabrielle, LAPD, Life on the Beat, Mark Wahlberg Show, Tempest. This was one of my favorites, Ned and Stacy. Love that show.
I remember that one.
Yeah, the Drew Carey Show came out. These are all in September. I'm trying to remember. Xena Warrior Princess made her debut. Bonnie, I remember Bonnie. Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat, Masked Rider. These are some kids shows here. The Client came out. Can't Hurry Love. What else we got here? Charlie Grace, Murder One. Of course, Carolina and the City. The Single Guy. I remember that one. What else we got here? American Gothic came out.
I loved American Gothic.
Yeah, what you did you watch all the shows? All the
Yeah. Really, it was 2 seasons? No, 1 season. American Gothic.
And one of the best sci-fi shows, and of course it premiered on Fox, so it was doomed and only got one season, was Space Above and Beyond, premiered September 25th, 1995. So, Kyle, yes.
If I don't recognize this, Scott Botman and Alex Autry will never forgive me. September 4th, WCW Monday Nitro premieres on TNT, and the professional wrestling business was never the same again after that.
I guess that was big for that, yeah.
That began what they call the era of the Monday Night Wars. And if you look in wrestling pop culture, it's considered maybe the
Did it find its home there? I mean, it was competing against Monday Night Football, so it obviously found some viewers, but did it always stay on Monday night, or did it move to another night?
It always stayed on Monday night, and actually at one point it was higher rated than both WWE Raw on Monday night and Monday Night Football.
Jeez, wow. Jeez. Now, of course, we lose some legends in 95. We got a few notable deaths here. July 1st, we lost the famous disc jockey born in 1938, Wolfman Jack. Wolfman Jack. Legendary. And of course, one of the most iconic artists of all time, we lost Bob Ross, painter and art instructor and television host. He was born in 1942. It's funny, I think he's become more popular than ever now, wouldn't you say, Lee?
He's definitely a meme now.
Yeah. We got some notable 95 births. I don't know really any of these because I don't know a lot of these shows here. Nicole Elise Nilsson, Chloe Greenfield, Georgie Henley, Sam Straley, Trevor Steins, Parker, McKenna Posey, Lulu Antaresca, Grace. I don't know any of these. Megan Lee. Does anybody recognize any of these people?
Georgie Henley, obviously playing in the Chronicles of Narnia. She was.
She was the little one, right?
She was Lucy in the first the first of the three, and did it in the three films that Disney and Walden did.
Gotcha.
Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, and Voyage of the John Trader.
This section always makes us feel old, especially in 95. When we go back to the 80s next year, yes, I'm teasing that, we'll probably recognize more there. So
I do want to throw back just a little bit. August 13th, Mickey Mantle passed.
Oh, thank you. I did forget that.
In 1961, him and Roger Maris were in a competition to see which one of them would beat Babe Ruth's all-time or regular season home run record.
61.
And Roger Maris beat it, but he got an asterisk because it didn't happen during the regular season. And that stood until... was it Ken Griffey Jr.?
No, Mark McGuire.
Mark McGuire, yeah.
The steroid era.
Yeah. And he ended up getting an asterisk next to his name, but...
both him and Sammy Sosa were battling it out. So,
and that
was exciting to watch, though, I'll tell you.
Yeah, but that was my stepdad's hero growing up, so I just got to throw that out.
That's right. I'm glad you did. Mickey Mantle. Yep, that's right. So we have some celebrity film debuts in 95 before we get into the movies here. Johnny Knoxville was in Desert Blues. Jared Leto was How to Make an American Quilt. Eric Mabius, Welcome to the Dollhouse. He was also in the Third Crow movie. He played the lead there. Heather Matarazzo. Say it, Lee.
Matarazzo.
Thank you. Welcome to the Dollhouse was the film she was in. James McAvoy was in The Near Room. Deborah Messing from Will and Grace, A Walk in the Clouds. Amanda Peet was in Animal Room. Mackay Pfeiffer, Clockers, and Ryan Phillippe was in The Crimson Tide. There you go.
A lot of names.
Yes, a lot of names. All right, well, here we are. This is the big part of the show where we actually start talking about the movies. This is why we're here. Time Warp, 1995, 25 years later. Part 3 of 4. We got some good ones to start off the bat. We'll mention a few here and I'll let you guys speak to it here. First, we have Clueless, came in July 1st. First Night, July 7th. Species, also July 7th. And then July 9th, we have 9 Months. Kyle, I'm going to go to you first here, sir. We got a couple of good ones here.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of good ones, but I think obviously the most iconic one is Clueless. I mean, it put Alicia Silverstone really on the map, and there was just so much that came from that. But I know Aaron's and you have got some thoughts on that. I want to talk about First Night too. That movie's kind of got a cult following with Richard Gere and Sean Connery in that.
Lancelot.
For the first time, as a guy, you could truly hate Lancelot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kevin, I think any red-blooded American male remembers Species.
We remember that well. Natasha Henstridge making her, I guess, main movie star premiere and going naked. So yeah, we do remember that.
White. It was wonderful.
Species, I gotta say, Species was actually a pretty interesting science fiction film, and kind of
it was actually really good.
Yeah.
It was, and like I said, I think the big one out of this though is Clueless. I think Clueless is probably the most timeless out of this bunch, and maybe out of one of the biggest films of the summer of '95.
Aaron, I want you to speak to that.
Yes, definitely. I saw it at the Galaxy in Hollywood, which is now at LA Fitness. And they brought it out. Yeah, no, I loved it. You know, it was fun. Alicia Silverstone, you knew from Aerosmith videos. Remember that? She did one with Stephen Dorff, and so that was big. So that's where you saw her from. Paul Rudd, who still looks exactly the same. And I loved it.
Hold on. I want to push back on that real quick, because have you seen the newest picture of Paul Rudd? He's in a car. He's like full beard, toned down. I mean, I'm going to say it. Dude was looking hot.
Paul Rugged.
Yeah, but
it
had great lines. It was the music was fantastic. And I think everybody, you didn't have to be a teenager to see it. Guys liked it. There's some great lines from it, quotes. It was just a fun film. And it was one that you could go and see quite a few times. And I think it's actually held up.
Wallace Shawn as her poor teacher was amazing.
Yeah,
Wallace Shawn, he was good in that. So, Lee, you go ahead. But what do you want to speak to on these films here?
Clueless, just way too much fun. A lot of us about 2 years ago got the chance to work with Stacey Dash. She made a movie here in town. She thinks this movie was much bigger than it was because she was acting like a star. But and you're Stacey Dash. That's cool. We know who you are, but don't act like a prima donna on our sets. First night, as bad as this movie was, it's still very enjoyable. Julie Ormond, just a perfect Guinevere.
Yes, she was really good in this. Yeah.
It was a very quick Arthurian legend because Arthur was already done. They already had the Knights of the Round Table, and Lancelot didn't really get to be a part of it. He just got to be there as Arthur died. Species. I saw this one at a drive-in, and me and my buddies, and we're 17, or most of us. Well, one of us had just turned 18 a couple weeks before. So there was plenty of high fives going around during this one. That was definitely a fun one. I saw some
boobies.
Yep.
Were you paging each other? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah. 2 ways. Yeah.
80085.
Yep.
Oh, yes. Clueless for me. I saw it in the theater as soon as it came out. And, who didn't have a crush on both Stacey Dash and, of course, Alicia Silverstone. And she just talk about a movie to make an impression in. She just stole this movie all the way through. I loved her father, Dan Hedaya. The first time I saw him not acting like a terrorist since Commando. And he stole every scene he was into. Just great cast. And it's so quotable. And they just released a Blu-ray special edition of it as well. Kyle?
Nice.
I was kind of crushing on Stacey Dash. Alicia Silverstone really wasn't anything to me. I'll tell you who I liked. This was I might say her name, Elijah Donovan, the redhead. In this.
Oh, the redhead. Yes. That
was kind of my crush.
I don't want to be anywhere where balls are flying near my face.
Yeah. Let's not forget Brittany Murphy in this film as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the late Brittany Murphy. Sad. She was good in that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so First Night, big fan of that one. It's a guilty pleasure. Directed by Jerry Zucker. I keep forgetting about that. Usually,
must be the only one who thought that was a massive yawn. That movie. I just thought everyone was It was bad. It just was not. I just thought Richard Gere. I love Richard Gere. I think Richard Gere is great. Richard Gere works well with women, and it just, his actresses come off so well. But in that, I just thought, I don't know, maybe he was paying off a house. I don't know.
It's the worst sword choreography of Bob Anderson's career.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it was just lacking.
Kyle?
I was just going to say, this was at the point where Sean Connery was like, I'm just here for the paycheck.
Yeah, I think they were all there for the paycheck.
Yeah. Still a guilty pleasure. Then we also, as I mentioned, we got the romantic comedy 9 Months starring Hugh Grant and Julianne Moore and Tom Arnold, directed by Chris Columbus. I remember seeing that. Wasn't a fan of it. So even though I am a fan of Hugh Grant himself. So next we have The Indian in the Cupboard. We also have Living in Oblivion starring Steve Buscemi and Catherine Keener and Dermot Mulroney. Ultimate tribute to all independent filmmakers, take place during one day on the set of a non-budget movie. And then we have the, I don't know if we were excited about this, Kyle, Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. Ooh, it takes place on a train. And then we have Dragon Ball Z, The Wrath of Dragon. Aaron, did any of these jump out at you?
No. Oh, I did see Living in Oblivion, and yeah.
How was it?
I don't know exactly. I just know that I saw it. And that was, I couldn't tell you what happened. It was one of those, saw it next. But the others, Under Siege and Dragon Ball, they ain't going to happen.
What's interesting, though, in Living in Oblivion is that Peter Dinklage was in this. And apparently he wasn't a fan of trying to be typecasted as these little people parts, like, leprechauns and stuff like that. And they actually, he got a decent role in this, apparently. I was reading up on some trivia, so I was curious about that. Lee, any of these jump out at you? Did you see any of these?
I just remember being so disappointed by Under Siege 2. It did have Katherine Heigl in it, but who cares? Indian in the Cupboard was actually a really fun movie. I read the book when I was a kid, so I was able to see it with like cousins or something, I think. But it is also the fourth cinematic appearance of Darth Vader. They actually do have a live action Darth Vader. They put an action figure in the cupboard, brings it to life, and it was a actual appearance of Darth Vader.
Interesting. Was it voiced?
I do remember that they had the lightsaber and they had the scuba voice. I don't know, or just the breathing, but I don't remember if James Earl Jones spoke or not. But
what a lot of people forget is that it is directed by Frank Oz, who did the voice of Yoda, of course, in the puppet show. Yeah. So yeah. Kyle, what about you? Any of these jump out at you?
Under Siege 2, where the jumping of the shark of Steven Seagal truly begins.
Okay, was it this or On Deadly Ground?
I'd say it's On Deadly Ground because that's the first time he plays guitar.
Well, no, I'll see now on Deadly Ground I have a whole other thing from, because he actually filmed some of that in my hometown of Fairbanks, Alaska.
Okay, we need to do a CPT on that one because I need to hear your stories.
They aren't pretty stories. How he treated everybody.
I think CPTs are for movies we want to see again.
Let me put it this way: by the time Steven Seagal had left Fairbanks, can we get him on the train fast enough? And he had completely alienated every Alaska State Trooper and every city police officer that had worked with them and they were assigned to his quote unquote protection detail.
Was he really that protected then?
No. Let's just say he's not welcome back anytime soon.
Gotcha.
You had a Dragon Ball Z movie, which means you had a lot of Kamehamehas and a lot of Goku getting beat up and beating up things.
I'm going to pretend what I know what that means.
Yeah. And I got to agree with Lee. The Indian in the Cupboard was a very fun movie, a great kids movie at the time. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, next we've got a few here. We have Free Willy 2, The Adventure Home. Then we have An Awfully Big Adventure, and this starred Hugh Grant, Alan Rickman. Boy, Hugh Grant was just pumping him out, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. A drama set after World War II. And then we have the film that kind of scarred me, and I kind of want to see it again, but man, it was disturbing.
You're not going to sit through it. You're not going to sit through it.
Kids. Yeah, kids, man. Kyle's shaking his head, man. This was a wake up call, man.
This was a controversial movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, speak to that.
This movie, this was at a time in the 90s where the parent groups are just in full overdrive, going after anything and everything they could. This is when they were really going after the video games. This is when they were going after kids. Was just controversial from it almost got an NC-17 because of the content that was in this, including sexual scenes.
I thought it did get an NC-17.
I think there was an NC-17 release of it, but I don't think that hit some theaters, but there was also an R-rated cut, I believe, of this film.
Yeah. I mean, it was full on, drug-induced rape going on in this thing.
Well, and it was very heightened with all the AIDS pandemic and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it did introduce Chloe, can never pronounce her last names.
Chloe Sevigny and Rosario Dawson.
That's right, she was too.
Lee, what did you think of Kids?
I remember seeing this for shock value. Because, this is, in context, this is also the same year that Kevin Smith is hitting it big and Tarantino was really hitting his stride. So anything shocking like this, you would go to see it. And I remember walking out of this one having laughed guiltily and sort of feeling a little sleazy. Like I didn't want anyone to know that I had seen that movie. I'm kind of like you, though. I do want to see it again, because it did give us Rosario Dawson, and it was news at the time. So
yeah. Aaron, did you see it when it first came out?
No, I think I saw it on video. And again, I would have seen it for shock value because it was, controversial. And of course, you have to watch all controversial movies. Don't go see it. Where can I rent it? But I don't mind Larry Clark. Some of his movies do borderline on sort of underage kids naked. He's done Another Day in Paradise, which was excellent, and Bully was a brilliant true crime movie. But are they movies to rewatch? Harmony Korine, who is Chloe, say her last name again.
Chloe Sevigny.
Chloe Sevigny, I must keep repeating that. They were dating, and I think that's the reason why she was in this film and his movie Gummo, which is another movie that you need to see once, but maybe not together. Which I have to say that one of the cast members from Gummo actually passed away the other day. She was in The Wanderers, and I can't remember her name. She passed away the other day.
Apparently, writer Harmony Korine wrote the movie in 1993 at the age of 19.
It was that old slacker time of, kids going out and having this whole, different life to whatever we knew what was going on. So it's not something that you would sit there and go, I feel really crap. Let's watch Kids.
Next couple of films, because there's one we definitely want to spend a little time on, but this was the time to be afraid of the brand new internet. And of course, we had superstar Sandra Bullock in The Net. Computer programmer stumbles upon a conspiracy, putting her life and the lives of those around her in great danger. And then we have Operation Dumbo Drop with Danny Glover, Ray Liotta, and Dennis Leary. I just wanted to mention real quick on The Net. I remember seeing it once. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Kyle?
The Net, otherwise known as The Snooze. This actually hurt Sandra Bullock's career for a little bit. This movie she was riding high off of the Speed success and and this really kind of set her back for a few years, because this movie was supposed to be the big franchise making kind of thing for her. And it played itself out real quick. It was supposed to play on the fear of the internet at the time, and it just it was slow moving. It really wasn't that suspenseful. It was just kind of there. But luckily, there was another movie that came out on the same weekend that made a lot of people forget about The Net too.
Mm-hmm.
I like The Net only because of Jeremy Northern. It was saved because I'm a Jeremy Northern fan, and so that it was eye candy for me for him.
Yeah, Real quick regarding what you were mentioning, Kyle, about Sandra Bullock. She does While You Were Sleeping, which was a hit, right? Then she does The Net, and then Two If by Sea with Dennis Leary. Not good. But then she does A Time to Kill, but that's like more of an ensemble cast. She didn't like lead that one in. And then she goes to In Love and War. So this is this time frame you're talking about, Kyle. Then she does Speed 2, Cruise Control. Then does Hope Floats. Then she does Practical Magic, Welcome to Hollywood, of course. She plays herself in that. And then The Prince of Egypt. Then Forced by Nature, 28 Days. And then she finally hits it big with Miss Congeniality in 2000.
She was the big name in Time to Kill, though. She was the pulling thing for Time to Kill. She might have been a second to, but no one knew who Matthew McConaughey was.
Yeah, he was fresh off of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 at that point.
And
sorry, Lee, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yeah. No, I saw The Net, completely forgot about it. All I remember about this is this was the first of the movies where my dad complained about that's not how computers work. And he still does that 25 years later.
I got to just throw. Wait, I just got to throw in. Operation Dumbo Drop was actually a fun kids film.
I never saw it.
Oh, I will also say these all came out on my 18th birthday. What a depressing... For all the great movies that came out this year, these are the three that come out on my birthday. So
okay, so let's talk about the big one that came out July 28th. And of course, this made so much news before it came out because of how expensive that it was. And a big project, of course. This is Waterworld, of course, starring Kevin Costner, Gene Triplehorn, and Dennis Hopper, directed by Kevin Reynolds. We've heard about all the on-set issues with the film and also between Kevin Costner and Kevin Reynolds. Kevin Reynolds left the production. Kevin Costner picked up the slack and directed, I think, a big portion of this. But the big question was it going to make its money? Was it going to make its money? Because it was pushing like $175 million. But eventually it did break even and even make money because I know it did well, of course, on video and stuff like that. But yeah, $175 million budget. But then, you know, the gross in the U.S. at the time was $88 million. It did another 21 million opening weekend. So a lot of people thought it was a failure, but it ended up making 264 million in the theaters, and of course millions more on video. So there's this kind of negative connotation going into it. I thoroughly enjoy this film. I still enjoy this film. There's a director's cut or extended version too, which has some really cool scenes in it. Lee, tell us your feelings on Waterworld.
Why? World. I saw this and I did want to like it, but it was just years later when I saw The Aviator, I realized the problem with this movie. When they're filming the first dogfights, they're like looking at it and realizing this is boring. It's because there's nothing against it. So they waited for clouds.
You're talking about The Aviator right now?
So they're waiting for clouds so that when they're having these great fights, there's something to kind of break up and show distance and show depth and show size. And that was what turned boring footage into interesting footage. And there's nothing to break up the boring footage in this. It's just endless vista of sea. And then you've got like your weird little trash island. And then the top of Mount Everest.
The atoll, yes.
And, you know, there was really nothing great about it, you know. And when a couple of years later when I saw The Postman, I really enjoyed that one, you know. But I don't know why this one just never sat with me. And I like Gene Triplehorn. I mean Kevin Costner, that was our guy for good 10 years at that point. But never really liked that movie.
Lee, I think we've just had our first fight. I was gonna say.
Oh, we're getting divorced because I've never seen it and I don't care.
I thought this would have been a Lee movie. Wow.
Sorry, dude.
Kyle, what about you in Waterworld?
Waterworld to me is the movie of what should have been and what could have been, because there's some great ideas and some great concepts in Waterworld. The problem with Waterworld was it was plotting. And like Lee said, there's nothing to break up the scenery. Everything is just you're looking at water, and it's
Yeah.
And but the thing that was frustrating about Waterworld is that there's some concepts you like. I love I love his ship. His ship is awesome.
Oh, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Dennis Hopper is being over the top Dennis Hopper. You can really never really go wrong with that. The kid was frustrating. You didn't really want to like the kid.
Tina Majorino?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of hers later on in her career when she's in Veronica Mars. She's one of my favorite parts of that series. But in this, it wasn't. Just the way that it was portrayed. They had a lot more they could have done that they didn't do, and that to me that's the problem with Waterworld. They spent all this budget, and yet they didn't even come close to the potential of the idea of Waterworld.
You guys are wrong. I'm sorry.
I think you're outvoted here.
The person that creeps me out, but I love it, is Kim Coates, who plays the drifter in the sea.
Yeah.
You know, and God, he's so good in everything, but he creeped me out in this one though, because he has, look, I get the paper. It's paper. Oh my God, it's paper. All right, so I'm alone on Waterworld, darn it. Okay, so next we've got a few more here. We've got, in August, we've got Babe. We've also got Bushwhacked, Something to Talk About, Unzipped, and Virtuosity. All right, so what Babe, I know, was a huge hit, of course, with James Cromwell. This movie just took off. It hit the right chord with families. Bushwhacked was, I think, the only movie that starred as the lead star Daniel Stern had. I could be wrong.
What a tragedy.
I know, right? Where, yeah. So then we had, what was it? Something to Talk About. And this was with Julia Roberts. She's with Dennis Quaid and Robert Duvall. And Unzipped with Roseanne Barr, Sandra Bernhard, Itzhak Merazi. Saying that name wrong there. I don't remember that one at all. Sandra Bernhard, though. There you go. And then, of course, Virtuosity, when a virtual reality simulation created using the personalities of multiple serial killers manages to escape into the real world, starring Denzel Washington and now upcoming hot star Russell Crowe. I'm going to go right over to you, Aaron. Did you ever see Virtuosity?
Yeah, I did. I thought, yeah, there you go. I think I watched it and went, yeah, that was all right. Remember Russell Crowe being really, really OTT, like more, because I know that he
OTT?
Over the top.
Come on, go with the lingo. Jesus, Kevin. Yeah, I don't know. It was, yeah. It was forgettable for me. I just was like, yeah, I've seen it. And
what about you, Virtuosity, and any of these other films?
Oh, I absolutely love Virtuosity. It was so stupid and bad, in a good way. I just remember loving every frame of this for how bad it was from start to finish. This is also one of those movies my dad is like, that's not how computers work, but neither one of us cared. I did go out and buy a very similar suit to the one that he stole from the guy at the nightclub. This was one of the first times I was mistaken for him, and nobody knew who he was, but I was at the theater and somebody thought that I was there for a promotional thing. And I'm like, no, I'm not him. And I should have played it up a little bit more, but yeah, this was,
I'm going to need a picture of 1995 Lee.
I was kind of a smug jerk, which really helped sell the whole Russell Crowe thing.
Well, I think because Russell Crowe had Romper Stomper, and that got him into doing Quick and the Dead because Sharon Stone had seen him in Romper Stomper. So they went with these roles of him being sort of a bit insane. And I just think Virtuosity was sort of, it could have, if he didn't get LA Confidential, I reckon he wouldn't have had the career he does, or he did, because he's gone a bit off the wire at the moment. But yeah, I think that would have been, I think people were looking at him going, ugh, and then he came back to LA Confidential and they went, oh yeah, okay, I get it.
Kyle, what about you? Any of these films jump at you? Were you a fan of Virtuosity?
Virtuosity is kind of one of those movies that's so bad you love to watch it.
No.
Yeah. I do remember a lot of people, though, at least noticing Russell Crowe in this. A lot of people would talk afterwards. Even though the performance was so over the top, a lot of people were noticing Russell Crowe coming out of this.
Yeah, he because he was playing a villain, and it's usually when you play the villain, you stand out. As silly as this movie is now, the idea of a virtual. I mean, everything was about fearing the net, of course, and this was one of those things. Like, what would happen if something like this could happen? And Kelly Lynch was in this, man. I remember that. And William Forsythe, great character actor, big fan of his. Young Kaylee Cuoco was also in this.
Oh, yeah.
And Tracy Lords.
Also, too, we had something to talk about, basically a way to make a movie out of a Bonnie Raitt song.
Yeah.
and
good song,
yeah.
We've got to mention Babe. I mean, Babe was nominated for an Oscar. I mean, that movie was...
I forgot about that.
Was huge. And I mean, an absolutely adorable movie, but I mean, this movie was very surprisingly successful. And really, to this day, very well known.
Well, it was written by the guy who directed Mad Max.
Yeah.
But I actually thought he directed it, and looking now, he didn't. That was one of those sort of things where I always thought George Miller did direct it, but he never did. And then they had Babe in the City, which I think went very dark, and everyone went, ooh, yeah, maybe not. It sort of put a sour taste from the Babe, for series of doing more, because I think it got quite dark in the second one. But I never saw the original.
The next set of films we got here, we've got The Brothers McMullen. This is where Edward Burns directed and also co-starred, and he kind of starts to make a name for himself. We also have, of course, Dangerous Minds with Michelle Pfeiffer and George DeZunza, Courtney B. Vance, but of course it had that huge hit song. And then we have A Kid in King Arthur's Court, Thomas Ian Nichols. Kyle, wasn't he the one that did, was it Major League?
No, that was
the baseball
Rookie of the Year, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was Rookie of the Year. That's right. Yeah. And then we also have A Walk in the Clouds. We get to see Keanu Reeves' drama side here again with Anthony Quinn. Aaron, did you see any of these?
I saw Brothers
films?
McMullen.
No, fans of these at all?
I actually did see Brothers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice drama. It was the start of all these sort of young directors who were doing their own sort of movies with Robert Rodriguez and, as you said, what was his name in Brothers McMullen? The guy who directed it, and he was also the lead.
Edward Burns.
Edward Burns, yes. He ended up marrying a supermodel. And that was sort of the start of these sort of young, 20-something guys directing them, getting the money for their own films. I think he just got all his family to put in for it, and it made a lot of money. Like, I think he probably made it for $20,000, and it made, what does it make, like 10 million or something. So,
it says the budget was $238,000 estimated, but it made over $10 million.
So that was that thing of making this movie, which he literally went around to all his friends and said, "Can you put in some money?" This was not. I don't think this was.
Yeah, he probably went into credit card
and
debt
then it did really well, and he made a couple of other things, and he became more of an actor. I don't think he's directed anything for ages.
Yeah. Lee, what about you? Did you go see Dangerous Minds when it first came
out? This was another one of those that I put together. So had to watch it. It's a really good remake of Only the Strong. Kind of throwing out. I mean, it's the same thing, comes in, does kind of this experimental class with at-risk kids, teaches them, self-confidence and all that sort of stuff. And again, that's also a remake of Stand and Deliver, it's a trope that gets done several times.
I thought Stand and Deliver was a way better film.
Oh yeah,
and I'm going to go with the song was better than the film.
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, so I want to touch on that real quick. So yeah, the big song "Gangster's Paradise" by Coolio, but I think the biggest news though is the beef that Coolio got in with
Weird Al.
Weird Al Yankovic for Amish Paradise, because Weird Al thought that he had permission or something. And Kyle, what do you speak to that?
Oh, no, it was just insane because Gangster's Paradise, I think, stayed on the charts for almost a year. It was that big of a hit. But yeah, I remember Coolio was just through the roof that Weird Al even decided to give him the Weird Al treatment. Most musicians treat that as like, oh my God, I've really made it. Weird Al is parodying me. And Coolio lost his mind over this.
Yeah, I think Coolio. I think that was like a bad move for him to do that because people kind of look down on him. Like you don't push back on Weird Al, man. You accept it and say thank you.
But the whole song was sampled from something else anyway. It wasn't an original song. It was originally a. Oh Christ, what's his name? I've totally forgotten.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I do agree. I think the songs outlasted the movie. Yeah. So yeah.
I think that song though is a little bit more emotional than most of the stuff that Weird Al covers. You know, I mean, when you listen to the lyrics, it's very much it's not the sort of thing you make fun of, like the rest of Weird Al songs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kevin, just real quick too on Dangerous Minds, it was a pretty damn good performance by Michelle Pfeiffer in that movie. So.
Oh yeah, she was good. But the thing that's interesting is that she's also in the video for the song, like just playing
staring
it
him
straight,
down,
you know, and staring him down. You know, she made the appearance. I remember that.
And just to go that was Stevie Wonder. There he goes. Brain's coming back together. Stevie Wonder originally the song, and he just did that thing of stole it and then just put different lyrics on.
Stevie Wonder has been sourced for a lot of very popular modern songs.
Wild Wild West.
Oh.
The next three, we got a good one here, and I want to ask you guys about it. But the next three, we have The Usual Suspects. Kevin Spacey, Gabriel Byrne, and Chaz Palminteri, directed by Bryan Singer. We have The Babysitter's Club with young Rachel Lee Cook. And then we have Mortal Kombat, which I've just seen recently for the first time. Kyle, yes.
I'm so glad that you have realized that Mortal Kombat is the best of these films.
I'm going to disagree with you on that.
Well, normally I would say The Usual Suspects, but history has changed on the perception of that just a little bit.
Well, yeah, just because Kevin Spacey is not in
either is Bryan
excellent.
Singer.
Yeah.
True. But the story is still pretty good. But I wanted to ask you guys something. Were you fooled by the end of what was going on there? Because I was hook, line, and sinker. I was just like, holy crap! Guys are so say no way. Lee?
Yeah, this was one. When this came out, I had actually put together Mortal Kombat, and The Usual Suspects was playing at a theater across town. And this was the one that all of those guys, they never had a movie to brag about. Like, we would occasionally go see something, that was where we saw Circle of Friends. So, like, that's the theater that it was at. And
the kind of art house theater, yeah.
So these guys came to our theater, and we were the Cobblestone, yo. I mean, come on, this is premiere. This is where you go. And they're like, you guys have to come see this. And so I think a bunch of us went on a Wednesday, and just the holy crap moment of Agent Kuyan looking around the office and seeing, Kobayashi and, the Orca Fat tuba player, in Skokie, Illinois, and like putting together all the pieces and getting the facts, with the picture of Kaiser Soze. Like, we were movie nerds. Like, and we were a steady diet of Kevin Smith and Tarantino at this point, like constantly. And then we're just watching this, and we just got completely fooled by it. And then we tried to get other people to come see it, and it was out of theaters a week later.
Wow.
And that was one of the big controversies of this, and why Gabriel Byrne will never do any of the commentary. Neither will Kevin Pollak or what's his name, Stephen Baldwin, is because they were supposed to be paid royalties, and they were supposed to get percentages. But he pulled this after a month. That was just the deal that he made. And so none of the cast made any money on this.
It's interesting too, because it says the budget was $6 million and only grossed $23 million. Aaron, did you see this one first come out?
Yeah.
Were you fooled?
We were. Yes, we were. I went with Todd and Carlos. I have a feeling we saw it at Mann's Chinese Theatre. It was somewhere in Hollywood. It was either the Galaxy or Mann's, or Grauman's, or whatever you call it now these days. We loved it. Loved it. I've watched it. I mean, we've watched it 1,000 times, but I did watch, I think it was like a little documentary on it. And Gabriel Byrne fought against doing it. He didn't want to do it. And his agent was like, "You got to do this film. You got to do this film." But he actually hated the name because he could never say it right, and no one says it's the same. Everyone says Kaiser Soze or Kaiser Chose or anything. So he found it really hard to say the name, and he says it differently every time.
Kaiser Soze.
And I read a piece on it in Empire magazine, which is a UK movie magazine, and they did a whole piece on it. And he said everything can be a lie except for the lineup. Everything after that, no one knows, except that people died on the dock and there was a lineup. In between there, you have no idea because he could have lied about the whole thing, and that's the only two things that are factual through the whole thing. So I loved it.
Kyle, anything to say else on that one? I know you want to talk about Mortal Kombat.
As far as the usual suspects go, anybody who says that they weren't fooled by this movie is lying through their teeth. I have one person I know who to this day argues, I had it figured out in 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, you go smoke whatever good thing you're smoking. And
liar.
You keep believing that. But, I mean, it was a phenomenal film. And it really is a shame that it's in ways got knocked down because of what's happened with Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey.
Well, Kevin Spacey always said that he played it in two ways. For you to watch it the first time and be shocked, and then you go back and watch him the second time and see him calculate it. Like, it's a totally different performance. And he said he played it that way, that you needed to see it twice to watch him calculate the whole thing.
Kyle, Mortal Kombat. I just saw it recently. First time.
I think for a lot of people's minds, for a long time, was the holder of the greatest video game movie of all time, even though Kevin will argue that was Super Mario Brothers.
Hey, we're about to have our second fight.
I could have just ended Blood of Kings, ladies and gentlemen.
There can be only one.
Mortal Kombat is what it is. It's a fun film. I think at the time it was probably the best video game movie to ever be made. It knew what it was. It didn't take itself seriously. It had some fun moments in it. Bridget Wilson was beautiful. Sonya Blade, of course, does have a Highlander connection, guys. Chris Lambert as Raiden.
Christopher Lambert. Christoph.
And of course, this is definitely one of the movies, though, that the song outweighs the film.
The soundtrack to this. Yeah. I still have this. Most of it's
by the
on
way,
my
it's
phone.
Bridget Wilson. It's Bridget Wilson Sampras. She married the famous tennis player Pete Sampras.
I forgot. I tried to ignore that fact, but no. But as Lee was saying, the soundtrack is phenomenal. Lee.
Yeah, and there are just from like a stunt perspective, so many fun things in this movie. Robin Shou. They tried to give him an acting career, and he just never took off, like a lot of people don't. But you've got Hakeem Alston, who's the black guy with the long dreads. He had a long career in XMA. The guy that played Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and the monk that gets frozen in like the first battle, Rick Casamassa. He goes all the way into John Wick 3. He was one of the upgrade agents in Matrix 2. Just really a great crew for fights. And of course, Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, anytime he's on a movie, you got to see it. I mean, especially in the 90s. He didn't know how to be in an unentertaining movie.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I was looking through the soundtrack. Control, the song Control, written by Tracy Lords and Ben Watkins, performed by Tracy Lords and Juno Reactor. Did not know that.
Juno Reactor is like a side trance.
KMFDM, Sister Salvation. This whole thing, when I was fighting for the University of Iowa, this was the CD. This just played. This is you play that and I start sweating and complaining.
Wait. Hold on. Let me run a test. Mortal Kombat!
Ugh.
I think it's
Raiden.
I think
it's Scorpion.
I think I see a few beads of sweat on Lee's forehead right now. So,
yep.
Okay, so the next few films we have here, we have Beyond Rangoon, John Boorman film starring Patricia Arquette, and where you do not want to be caught in losing your passport in Burma. We also have Desperado, Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, directed by Robert Rodriguez. And then we have comedy I never saw, Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde, starring Sean Young and Tim Daly. So yeah, let's talk about Desperado. Salma Hayek, guys. Okay, so this is, I guess, the somewhat sequel to El Mariachi.
Yeah.
I thought it was a remake. Wasn't it a reboot?
It's a little bit of both. Everything that happened in the first one happened, but they also just remade it. So because the first one, he's going after this guy Azul, but it's really Bucho that did it. And he doesn't know who Bucho is, and finds out that Bucho is, in fact, his big brother.
Yes. Bucho, of course, played by Joaquim de Almeida. You've seen in lots of stuff. Usually always plays bad guy. But this had a very stylistic action to it. Great soundtrack. Salma Hayek, directed by Roger Rodriguez. Salma Hayek.
Yeah.
Salma Hayek. Kyle, Salma Hayek.
So
we're walking across the street and causing that 4-way accident and just smiling.
Yes.
Oh my God. How do you not fall in love with her at that moment?
Salma Hayek.
When she's singing and playing guitar for him. Oh, I need more of that in my life.
Salma Hayek.
The love making sequence between thank you. All I got to say is, for every red-blooded American male, thank you, Robert Rodriguez.
Yep. The spur going down the booty.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, but I got to tell you though, my favorite scene in this, and I love watching it, is Steve Buscemi in this.
Absolutely.
When he's telling the story of the Desperado to the that, and then Cheech Marin is in this as well. I remember the bathroom that had like crap all over the wall, but was the secret entrance. Danny Trejo, of course, as one of the villains. This movie just works so well. The music as well. Of course, I know that Robert Rodriguez played, I guess, the music in this because he's a musician. Kyle, what have you say about Desperado, Salma Hayek?
Salma Hayek is a wonderful thing. Funny story about this movie. I went and saw this movie, and when we went to see it, because this was right before I left Alaska. This is like I went with one of my best friends to go see this. This was about a month before I left. And we went to go see this, and the movie snapped right after the love scene. And we wait.
Oh, that was Lee's fault. He took the rest of it, right?
We waited for an hour and a half for them to fix the film because we were so desperate to watch the end of this movie.
You were Desperado?
Exactly. But I mean, this movie, first of all, really brought Robert Rodriguez's attention to the U.S. audience. So we've got that as well. This is a near perfect film. They always have the saying for guys who like movies. This is the definition of this movie. I mean, you've got guns, you've got action, you've got Salma Hayek, you have Steve Buscemi introducing Tarantino introducing us to basically Antonio Banderas as well.
Wait, it's Tarantino that tells the story, right?
Oh, Tarantino tells a different, a dirty joke.
Yeah, he tells us.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, just from that opening sequence of Buscemi telling the story, and it goes, and you're completely drawn in, and then you see Salma Hayek, and you're into a whole nother level.
Yeah. All right, Lee. Anything else?
This one, this was huge. This was the one that we went to see on our days off. There was a place that did midnight movies, and it was a theater. It was where they did Rocky Horror Picture Show, and when they were having the print repaired, they would do Desperado. And so even though we'd seen it and we could get in to see it for free at our theater, we would go to see it at this one as well. And just an absolute blast. The soundtrack, you got Los Lobos, Tito and Tarantula, Salma Hayek performing for herself, and Dire Straits doing a great song, Six Blade Knife. Oh, so good. But yeah, I learned how to play the main song from this just because I thought, oh yeah, playing mariachi music.
You wanted
is
to get chicks,
oh yeah,
didn't
totally.
You wanted to get chicks. Just say
totally.
it. Yeah. All right, that's cool. I respect.
I wanted to get some.
Okay,
man.
Aaron,
no, I
sorry.
was just going to say you hadn't mentioned Aaron yet. I really think we should get the female perspective on this.
Did you see Desperado, Aaron?
Yeah, it wasn't the love fest for you, for me, that for you guys. I mean, I thought Antonio Banderas was gorgeous. I did see all his Pedro Almodovar movies. So Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. You know, you can't beat him in that. And I can see why. I mean, Madonna put him on the map in her documentary, and then he came over and did Mumbo Kings, which apparently he didn't speak a word of English and had to literally, what do you do when you read it? It's a word for it. You learn the lines phonetically or
memorize them. Yeah.
But he had done Philadelphia. So I mean, for anyone, you're not going to get hot over Steve Buscemi or Quentin Tarantino or Danny Trejo. So us girls, other than sitting there just wanting Salma Hayek's boobs, I know you guys did, but we wanted them in a different way. Or did we? I don't know.
So friendly.
Antonio Banderas was hot. No, it was a fun film. It's not something I would go back and watch again, but I didn't hate it.
Okay, so Aaron, I want to go to you for these next two films that came out because you like horror films, and we have Lord of Illusion starring Scott Bakula, directed by Clive Barker, and then we have this film that I've never seen, and
keep going.
And I want to this movie called Nadia that was it's. So, okay, hold on. I want to ask you about this because it says this ultra-hit postmodern vampire tale is set in a contemporary New York City. Members of a dysfunctional family of vampires are trying to come to terms with each other in the wake of their father's death. Meanwhile, they're being hunted by Dr. Van Helsing and his hapless nephew.
Boring. Oh, it was so bad. It was one of those movies I nearly walked out on.
Yeah, it was bad. Okay.
If you look at the poster.
Really? That bad?
Yeah. It says David Lynch Presents.
No, it was an arty-farty, boring, I think it was in black and white. I don't know. It was whatever, an hour and a half I'll never get back.
Peter Fonda was in it, apparently.
It was just, Lord of Illusion
So what about Lord of Illusion?
I enjoyed. I saw that in New Orleans. I was living in New Orleans at the time, or as they like to call it, Nolans. And I went to a cinema where you could walk in and literally, if the movie was playing, you could probably walk in anyway and watch it. So I sort of caught the little bit at the end and then I stayed for the rest of it. And, I had fun. Yeah. I mean, I think I've seen it once. It was, it was all right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. The next film I want to mention, I've actually never seen, but I kind of want to see it. It's a documentary called Theremin, An Electric Odyssey. And it's a documentary about the inventor of the first electronic synthesizer instrument and his subsequent life after he was abducted by the KGB, as well as a history of his instrument. And the theremin's one of those weird instruments that you've probably seen people play. It's like this box with this wire that comes up, and when you bring your hand to it, it makes all these weird noises. It probably got into popularity with a lot of rock stars, especially during guitarist solos. I know Jimmy Page was a fan of using it, but there was a lot of songs that have been using it. And I not recently, but last year, I saw LA Guns in concert, and they have a song called Malaria. And during Tracy Guns' solo, he uses the theremin. But Led Zeppelin's used it. A bunch of famous musicians have used it. And I've always been kind of curious about this.
Every UFO in 50 sci-fi movies. Exactly. Yes. That's exactly. I only associate it with...
I'm sorry, wait, hold on. Hold on. Lee, what was the sound of that?
Every UFO in the 50s was, it is great. And that's all I associate it with is UFOs.
Kyle, did you know what the theremin was?
I didn't know what the theremin was, yes.
Okay, Aaron, I want to go back to you. The Prophecy, Christopher Walken, Elias Koteas, Virginia Madsen, directed by and written by Gregory Wyden from Highlander fame, because he wrote the original story of Highlander, where he directs The Prophecy. Did you see The Prophecy?
Yeah, I saw it at the cinema. I enjoyed it. It's great. Viggo Mortensen plays the devil, and it's one of the greatest things he ever does. He's got a very, very short scene at the end, and it's amazing. I actually really enjoyed this. I got a job because of this film, because when I lived in LA, when Hollywood Book and Poster was on the corner of Ivar and Hollywood, now Scientology bought it. Remember I showed you where we stay at Mary's? Yes, I was walking past it, and there was a competition saying, if you can name other sci-fi horror films these actors are in, you'll get a free poster of The Prophecy. And my friend Todd was having a bad day, and I thought, I'm going to go and get that for him. So I went in there and I met Eric Caden, who is the owner of Hollywood Book and Poster, and I'm like, are you still doing that competition? And he totally forgot that it was even in the window, but he said, go for it. And I was like, Eric Stoltz was in Lionheart, and, Christopher Walken was in Dead Zone, and Virginia Madsen was in Candyman. And we got talking, and he said to me that night, he gave me the poster, and he said to me, do you want to go to see a movie? Do you want to go to see a premiere of Strange Days? And I was like, yep. And we went and hung out, and it wasn't creepy or anything, just in case you're thinking that way. He wasn't like that. And in the end, I got a part-time job at Hollywood Book and Poster just because of doing Prophecy.
Very cool.
The movie. But no, it's funny enough, it's on a streaming service we've got here, and I've put it on my list, and I think I might watch it again. Christopher Walken was great. Everyone. Virginia Madsen was great.
I got to give that movie a shot.
Have you never seen it? Oh, my God. Yeah. It's actually really good.
Never seen
really
it.
Good.
It's really good.
Okay.
But just for Viggo Mortensen at the end.
Crush.
Okay, you sold me on Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
So that's awesome. Lee, do you have anything on that as well?
I love this movie. Like she's saying, Viggo's scene at the end is awesome. It's got some amazing Christopher Walken lines. That little dent on your upper lip when you were in the womb? I came in and told you a secret, and then I said, shh. It's just creepy. And Elias Koteas, this is just another one of these great movies that gives an amazing performance, and it just makes me wish that he had had a better career.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I mean, of course, a lot of us know him as Casey Jones in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, but he did a lot of
we got a few indie films. That's what he was massive for. Yeah. A lot of Canadian indie films and stuff like that. But now he's stuck in, what is he in now? He's in one of those Chicago Fire, Hope, NCIS, JAG things at the moment.
All right, so I want to touch on a few others here. I want to get through some of these. We're in September right now of 95. We've got Clockers, of course, directed by Spike Lee with Harvey Keitel, John Turturro, and Delroy Lindo. I just had to mention this one. I'd never seen it. Probably went direct to video. The maddening Burt Reynolds finally goes completely insane in a psycho horror flick about a deranged father who will stop at nothing to protect his family's secrets, with Angie Dickinson and a young Mia Sara, by the way. Well, not young, but older than she was, obviously, in Bueller. Separate Lives, starring Jim Belushi and Linda Hamilton. We've also got, what else here? We've got The Last of the Dogmen with Tom Berenger and Barbara Hershey with Kurtwood Smith. And probably the bigger film and a very risky film with some very popular actors at the time. Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, of course, starring Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo. Kyle, I want to start with you. What have you say on this group of films?
Tu Wong Fu, the movie that everybody started saying, what were they thinking?
They ripped off an Australian film. That's what they were thinking. The Australians did it.
What was the name of that film
Priscilla
again?
Queen of the Desert.
What was the name of that film?
Priscilla Queen of the Desert, Australia. Right. And it was massive. It was so huge across the world. And the Americans like, well, if they can do it, we can. And they did Tu Wong Fu.
And everybody was like, Patrick Swayze, what are you thinking?
I thought he was quite good.
Priscilla was a big hit on video.
Yeah, Priscilla was a big hit across the world. I mean, they've done a musical of it as well and introduced you to Guy Pearce. Terrence Stamp did it. I mean, Hugo Weaving, they did. It was done very well. And I have to say, Tu Wong Fu is good. I thought John Leguizamo was excellent, and that was a character he had done in his live act. That's not something he created for the movie. That was one of his characters in his live act. So, but yeah, it was just America going, yeah, Australia did it. Let's try and do it badly.
Lee, do you have anything you want to say on it?
I just know how important that movie was to a lot of my LGBTQ friends growing up, because there was one of the cashiers, this kid Joel, who started a drag career about this time, saw this movie, and it was the first time he had seen somebody that represented him in a way that was definitely over the top, but it was also, these are the heroes of the movie. Right. And they take kind of this caricature, but they also really show it love and give it some reality. And I just remember this being huge for him. And it was not one that, if I hadn't been friends with him, I don't know that I would have appreciated it the same way. But gotcha. he made us go to this with him, like we made him go to Mortal Kombat with us. So it was the least we could do. And I still, when this one comes up, I'll still sit down and watch it and kind of laugh. It's a little bit deeper than I would have ever expected, especially from the press tour, because Wesley Snipes was pretty homophobic in all the press tour that he did on this. But
interesting.
Yeah, this was a fun movie.
Kyle, any thoughts on this?
Well, like I said, when it came out, a lot of people were just going, "What are they doing?" I mean, it really was, and I know over the years it's kind of gotten a cult following to it. But I mean, especially Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze, people were like, I think, and at the time this came out, I don't think people were ready for this in the general population. I think if this movie comes out now, it's a totally different acceptance period at this. But Lee, like you talked about, I mean, Wesley Snipes I remember he was getting criticism on the press tour. It was like he was doing everything possible to say, no, I'm not this. Mm-hmm. And it was really weird as far as that, of what was going on, the dynamic of what the film was compared to how certain members of the cast were acting about it. It was, and a lot of people were still puzzled, especially I think with Patrick Swayze. It's like, what is Patrick Swayze doing?
Well, it's weird because I think you look at Priscilla and that had no negative connotations at all. And it was weird because I think that they had the whole cast go to do Donovan. Remember Donovan in the 90s, the TV show guy? He talked. He was a talk show host.
Yeah,
Donovan.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and they had Hugo Weaving,
Donovan?
Guy Pearce, and Terrence Stamp.
Donahue, not Donovan.
Oh, Donahue, that's right.
Yeah.
Donahue. Yeah, so we remember Donahue.
Donahue.
Yes,
Donahue. And he was talking to the cast and he said to them, he asked if they were gay, and they said, no, none of us are gay. We're all straight men playing this cast. But I don't remember. I think Tu Wong Fu got way more bad, sort of press and what are they doing compared to what Priscilla did, which was basically the same thing, going 3 drag men taking a show into the middle of Australia would be like doing the same thing going to the south, but didn't get those bad connotations. Everyone didn't, their careers weren't like, oh my God, what did Guy Pearce do? Or what did, Terrence Stamp do? It was like, this is what they did. How amazing.
Kyle, did you have a comment?
I think part of it was too, is at the time, Patrick Swayze was still coming off of kind of being America's heartthrob from, Dirty Dancing and Ghost and things like that. So it kind of
Roadhouse.
Yeah, Roadhouse. But I mean, I so you had the mix of Patrick Swayze was the man's man, and all the women just swooned over Patrick Swayze, at least here in the U.S. And I think that's where people were just like, it wasn't what they were expecting.
Okay, guys, so let's, I want to go over the next 3 films here. First of all, we had Canadian Bacon, directed by Michael Moore, starring John Candy and Alan Alda. The U.S. president, who is low in opinion polls, gets talked into raising his popularity by trying to start a Cold War against Canada. Then we have Jason Priestley, starring in Cold Blooded. A bookie is promoted to a hitman and seemingly excels at his newfound job, co-starring Kimberly Williams Paisley. And we have one of the biggest cult hits probably from this year, Hackers, Starring Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie and Jesse Bradford, hackers are blamed for making a virus that will capsize 5 oil tankers. And it kind of had I guess you would say a cyberpunk kind of feel to it as well. I just want to mention something about Cold-Blooded. I remember seeing this on video at the video stores, of course, and Jason Priestley did this during his break with 90210. He was trying to make the jump into films. And then I kind of forgot about it. And it wasn't until I found it on VHS, like over the last 2 years, I think it was, I actually watched it for the first time. Not very good. But Kyle, I want to start with you because I want to give you a minute here to talk about Hackers.
Hackers, as Lee says, Lee's dad would say, that's not how computers work.
He's going to love this episode.
But the thing about Hackers, it was just so over the top and so fun. And obviously a lot of people, because really is the movie that brought us Angelina Jolie. But I think Johnny Lee Miller is great in this. You've got a lot of great character actors in this. Obviously, Matthew Lillard is as a serial killer in this is just insane.
Fisher Stevens.
Yeah, Fisher Stevens is the villain, right? Falco from Sopranos in this as well.
Yeah.
So it's got a great cast. Penn Jillette is in this film.
Lorraine Bracco,
that's right. I think. It's a great cast. It's so over the top, but it's so reflective of that time frame in the US and that culture that was going on and how people perceived the hacking culture at that time as it's just so out there, so bizarre and so different. But it's just fun. And it's completely over the top, but you just go on for this ride and you enjoy it, because one of the best moments in this film is when you have the competition between Jolie's character and Johnny Lee Miller's character, Acid Burn versus Crash Override, to determine who the best hacker is. And they target the head of the FBI, like computer crimes unit, and the things they do to him during this thing, including setting him up on a homosexual webpage, and of course at this time, and it was a very adult rated webpage, and then it ends with them literally having killed him off in the cyberverse. But it's a great scene. It's fun. This is one of those movies, if I find it on TV, I will probably stop and wherever I'm jumping into it. And the hacker names in this are great. You've got Crash Override, Zero Cool, Acid Burn, Lord Nikon. I mean, just fun. That's what I can say about Hackers.
Gotcha. Ali, you a fan of Hackers?
Yeah, I love this movie. As bad as it is so much fun. And I do like how the kids that got freed from the Foot Clan in the Ninja Turtles movie found a way to express themselves and reuse that facility, to further their criminal activities by becoming hackers. I remember watching that and thinking, this is kind of the same setup. They just got the big warehouse full of stuff they stole. And I loved Johnny Lee Miller in this. A little Highlander reference. He's wearing the same coat that Richie does in the first few episodes of Highlander the series.
Are you talking about the green jacket?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He's wearing that same coat.
My mind is blown right now. Are you
serious?
serious?
There's a point where he's wearing that same coat. Yes.
Okay, now I want to watch.
They never made that jacket in Massive, but I did see it a few times at the store, and I'm like, if only they made for real men, I would have owned it.
Okay, guys, we got 3 big films here, but I'm actually going to save them till the end, because right now we're coming towards the end of September and the end of the main movie segment. But I want to touch on a bunch of others before, because I want to give us time to talk about the big ones. But there's a few of these I did want to mention. I want to talk about To Die For with Nicole Kidman, Matt Dillon, and Joaquin Phoenix, a beautiful but naive, inspiring television personality. Films a documentary on teenagers with a dark, ulterior motive. Then we've got The Big Green, starring Steve Guttenberg and Olivia d'Abo, about a teacher exchange from England is placed in an underachieving Texas school where they coach children in soccer. Then we have The Devil in a Blue Dress with Denzel Washington and Tom Sizemore and Jennifer Beals. Mm-hmm. We also have, and I want to ask you about this, Aaron, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. And we also have Moonlight and Valentino with Elizabeth Perkins, Whoopi Goldberg, and Kathleen Turner. And then we have Steal Big, Steal Little, starring, well, I mean, I got to touch on this real quick, guys. This movie, Andy Garcia and Alan Arkin, and Rachel Tickerton, by the way, and Joey Pants, good cast here. But this movie was very important for people in Santa Barbara because it was filmed entirely in Santa Barbara, and I believe Andy Garcia still lives here. And so we remember the film crew filming here, and we were all really excited, like a big major motion picture was filming here in Santa Barbara, and they even highlighted it in the Santa Barbara Film Festival, and I went to go see it, and I fell asleep. Anyway, regarding the films that I did mention, Aaron, I want to ask you about Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers. You're a big fan of the franchise to a certain degree. What did you think of this movie?
Oh, God, no. Yeah. Yeah, they went off the boil. I mean, look, the only thing is Paul Rudd's in it, plays Tommy Doyle, we went to Tommy Doyle's house in LA. So when we went to do the two houses, we had, so we had the house across the road, which was the one that had the girls from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Actress is now what's living there. But Paul Rudd played Tommy Doyle, who was a young boy in Halloween. But other than that, and then suddenly it was about Michael being in a cult, and it was just, it's just a horrible.
So not a fan of it. Okay.
No, God.
Any of the other films that I mentioned, To Die For, anything else you want to speak on?
I enjoyed To Die For. I thought that was sort of the first time we really noticed Joaquin Phoenix becoming Joaquin Phoenix. Mm-hmm. You know, he'd done Parenthood where he was quite cute, but this is where he started doing his sort of, this is the career I'm going to, give myself. Nicole Kidman was excellent. I think it was based on a true crime story. I think it was actually based on a real story. But my mother,
did you want to mention
my mother watched it and actually thought that Joaquin Phoenix was actually not quite all there in real life.
Kyle, you wanted to say something?
I'm a huge fan of the movie To Die For. It was actually based off the Pamela Smart murder.
That's it,
situation. Yeah. This was I wanted to see this movie, and I was a huge Nicole Kidman fan anyway, but a lot of people consider this the one that kind of put her to another level as far as her showcasing her acting abilities, how she was in this. She was phenomenal. Again, Joaquin Phoenix got a lot of buzz coming out of this as well. I think this is a great film. Matt Dillon's even really good in it, and there's a lot of really good underrated performances in this film. I also want to talk real quickly, Devil in a Blue Dress. That is a phenomenal Denzel Washington film. If you've not checked that out yet,
I never got around to seeing that.
If you have not checked that out yet, definitely check it out.
To Die For is a Gus Van Sant movie, and I think it's one of his more accessible films.
Yeah,
because some of his films go off the boil, and you're just like, "Oh, why am I here?"
Drugstore Cowboy.
Well, no, that was actually a better one. But My Own Private Idaho. That was one of the movies I've seen people walk out of. Like, it was just like, why are we here?
Lee, anything else you want to mention on this group of films?
I got to just chime in. To Die For was one of those, we all went to see it. I remember the Don Henley song, Dirty Laundry, being in the trailer. And it was just, it wasn't even a song anybody really liked, but it just matched the trailer. It's got Nicole Kidman dancing in her underwear, and it's like, okay, maybe we want to go see this, see what the old BMX Bandit's up to. And this one was a surprise hit for us. It actually stayed in the theater a lot longer than we ever expected.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. All right. So the last three films that we're going to speak of in this segment, pretty big in their own right. I want to first of all talk about Empire Records. Okay. So, this was a big deal for, and it's weird too because I I was around the age of these kids, and it takes place 24 hours in the lives of young employees at Empire Records. Of course, Anthony LaPaglia, Debbie Mazar, Maxwell Caulfield, Robin Tunney, Renee Zellweger, Ethan Embry, Liv Tyler. Great cast of kids here. Good soundtrack. I haven't seen this movie in years, though. I need to revisit this. Kyle, I want to go to you on this. Are you a fan of this film?
I love this film. This film is phenomenal. This was one of those films that tanked in the theaters, didn't do anything, but very limited release in theaters. It really caught on actually in the DVD market. It didn't really catch on in the home video market. I think it's some of the actors, especially when you look at Renee Zellweger and Liv Tyler, that's what brought a lot of people coming back around to watch this movie. As they got bigger, a lot of people went in there. I remember, though, a lot of people thought Rory Cochrane was going to be the big name, and when this movie came out, he was one of the people that people were really talking about, especially but also after he had been in Dazed and Confused as well. But I mean, this was a great movie representing the times. I'm a big fan of Anthony LaPaglia too. He was also the father on Blossom, if you remember correctly. And of course, you can never go wrong with Maxwell Caulfield. I mean, but
Say no more, Mona Moore.
Yeah, and Renee.
I loved Grease too.
Yeah, Renee Zellweger was just hot in this movie. I mean, flat out. It's such a fun movie, and it's such a great soundtrack of the times. This is one of those movies where the soundtrack is just as important to the film as any of the acting roles or anything like that. But Robin Tunney's in this. You've just got a lot of people who are in this. Really, I mean, obviously Liv Tyler's probably your biggest breakout star of this, but there's a lot of names and faces you recognize in this, and it's one of those movies that I think it's a great one of those time capsule films, and really captures the feeling of that time frame.
Yeah, Lee?
Yeah, this is one that I can watch and go back to being 18 years old. This basically was the story of me and my friends working in the movie theater instead of the record store. I mean, we were just constantly doing crazy crap like this. It hits so many notes right. And so funny, the lineup of crazy people that are there to see Maxwell Caulfield or Rex Manning just had me in tears. Cause I remember when we had something for Bridges of Madison County, just the same kind of thing, and it was, Sugar High is still on my top rated songs when I'm running. Like, it's just a all around, like, beginning to end, there's not a slow part in this movie. You feel like you know the characters better than the movie gives you a right to. And it's just, they figured out how to tell you exactly enough about every person in there. Right. And you understand their relationships without ever having them explained. And that's brilliant writing. Like, the only thing I can think of like that is Fury Road. Like, where you know so much about these characters and you were never told.
Yeah, what's interesting is I remember seeing it either. I want to say I saw it in the theater, but I know I saw it soon. At least if I didn't, I know I saw it as soon as it came out on video. I was very curious about it, but for some reason it didn't resonate with me for some reason. I know I watched it again later on video, but I haven't really gone back to it. But I kind of want to now because I love going back to 90s films and seeing what was popular back then with what people were wearing. And Kyle, you were right. It tanked at the box office. It only made $273,000 worldwide. So I know it did a lot better on VHS and DVD and stuff. But I need to go back and check this out. Aaron, did you see Empire Records at all?
I did, but unlike you, I think I saw it. I must have seen it on video. I think that to me, this is a thing where, I mean, the soundtrack's very 90s. You got the Gin Blossoms, you got Better Than Ezra. I saw them live. Yeah. They were great. But I feel, I'm like you, for some reason, it's something that should have grabbed me. It just didn't. And I don't know why. I remember Robin Tunney shaving her hair. I thought that was quite brave of her because she actually does shave all her hair off, which that means that she had to wear a wig during the craft. But yeah, it was, I don't know. It's one of those movies that should work for me and doesn't quite. I don't know why.
All right, well, let's talk about the next big one here. Seven, directed by David Fincher, starring Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, Kevin Spacey. What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? Guys, let's talk about some Seven here. Aaron, I want to start with you.
One of I think probably in the near perfect movie category of everything. This is a movie, if it's on TV, I'm stuck. I reckon I must watch it twice a year. It's rewatchable all the way through. There's not one bit where you go, I'm bored. Visually amazing. Just to have Trent Reznor's Closer in one of his different versions at the start, and it brought those, whoever did the titles at the start with all the writing and the finger and that, and then it became very big for the next serial killer movies of the 90s. Everybody had to have those titles at the start. Performance is amazing. The only thing that I will give it, what that does a damper, is never ever in the history of anything ever listen to the audio commentary of the movie with Brad Pitt, David Fincher and Morgan Freeman, because it is the most boring commentary ever. So many scenes went past and Morgan Freeman spent about 15 minutes talking about his hat. Like, it was so disappointing. But I love. Funny thing is, it came out, 3 weeks after Usual Suspects?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to see it with the boys. It was like Todd and Carlos. And and Kevin Spacey actually put it in his contract saying, you cannot put my name at the start. It can only be at the end. Like, now everybody knows and he's on the video box and all that stuff. But the turnaround of Kevin Spacey standing there, where everybody literally in the cinema went, oh my God, it's Kaiser Soze, so loudly. Kaiser Soze.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because and then at the end he has his name. Brad Pitt full on said, I'm not doing the movie if you, because the movie people suddenly freaked out about the whole cutting, for everyone, spoiler alert.
Wait, back up. What are you saying about Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt. No, but I'm just saying spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Seven. When they cut the head off, of Gwyneth Paltrow, and you find it in the box, which you've just done brilliantly, Brad Pitt,
thank you.
They didn't want them to do that. They were going to cut that. And Brad Pitt turned around and said, I'm not doing the movie unless you keep that in. Like, that was his big
okay, well, it's kind of important.
No, but they didn't. They wanted to turn around and make it. They were going to cut that out. That was like a full on.
And make
the
her live or
studio.
something?
Yeah, the studio executives were like, no, you can't go on a downer. And Brad Pitt's like, no, I'm not doing the movie. And he looked hot.
Really?
He cut his hair off at that time. And this is it's brilliant. Love.
He broke his arm on the set, and they kept it in there.
Yeah. So many. Just don't listen to the commentary.
What do you say about? What about you?
Oh God,
Lee?
this one was double fun because it was a really good movie, and then we all had this agreement that we would just go see it on random days together, and we would laugh at the most inappropriate parts and creep everybody out in the theater. I got to give credit to Andrea Fowler, formerly Andrea Bates. This was her twisted and sick idea to go and watch this movie and laugh and make people uncomfortable. But we would laugh all the way through this movie, which, kind of disturbing now that I think about it, but it was really a good time.
Kyle?
So, to give you an idea of how powerful Seven was and how much closer to real life it actually is, I showed this movie to my parents because my dad being an officer, my mom worked in the court system, and my mom's job in the court system was to go out to the jail and interview people in the jail to sign them public defenders.
Right.
Parents watched this movie. My mom looked over at me. She said, that was one of the most phenomenal movies I've ever seen, and I will never watch it again. And she's like, I'm like, what? And she's like, I have interviewed people like that man.
Wow.
So
What'd your dad say
And
after being a
he
police
said
officer?
pretty much the same thought, and he's like, "That's a very powerful movie, but yeah, no, I can't watch that again. It hits too close to home to certain experiences they've had." So to give you, I mean, I love the film and I can rewatch it, but it made me change my perspective on it, hearing their opinion on it after they watched it.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because when I watched it, I thought it was great, but I did not feel like I needed to return to it because there were certain things about it that really kind of creeped me out. And I got to tell you, the gluttony victim,
that's rough.
That creeped me out
That's
big
rough.
time, man. I messed with me. I'm just like, oh my God. But, you know, I eventually went back to it and watched again, and it's really good. And Morgan Freeman's just great in this. But I love the fact that, and that trivia that you mentioned, Aaron, about Brad Pitt making sure that, that Gwyneth loses her head. Seeing him succumb to the whole plan that Kevin Spacey's character was trying to do to get him to kill him, and he does. It's just, it was realistic that way, and but it's a tough rewatch. I can't just put it in. I don't know if I'm you, Aaron, if I could go in and just watch it. I'll watch it with you, of course, but when it's on, I don't know if I could just go in and visit because it's a tough watch. But man, it's good.
It's up there with Texas Chainsaw Massacre of being one of the most violent and sort of off-putting films you've ever seen that you never see any violence. Like, even in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, except for one bit where he does hook her up on a hook, but you don't see blood, you don't see flesh ripping, you don't see anything like that. And the same thing with Se7en. All the violence is implied. I mean, and I think one of and this is me being a bit strange, and I am a bit strange, but that scene where they go down to the place where the guy has basically I can't say what I want to say, but with the hooker and the object that he used on her, and that scene, and then the one of them's talking to the guy from The Crow. What's his name? Michael
Wincott. Yeah.
No. The other one, the one who actually accidentally shot Brandon Lee. Fun boy, but anyway. That actor, and they've got the other guy in the other room, and he's telling her how he was made to put it on, and then they just show you a Polaroid of what
Michael Massey,
and they just show you a Polaroid of the thing that this guy created, which I thought actually was quite beautiful. It was a very good piece, but it was so. That was the beauty of it, that none of it was shown. Everything was just your imagination of what happened. And it's just, I just think it's one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest thrillers, horrors that was ever made.
All right, guys, it comes down to this. Probably one of the most revered movies of all time, and definitely of 1995.
Our generation, Citizen Kane.
One that Yes, it's right below Citizen Kane, basically. And we look back fondly on it right now, and it has probably some of the most interesting acting we've ever seen. We've seen its lead actress in a way we've never seen her before. It's got a celebrated director, and that movie is Showgirls. Aaron, when I first went to Melbourne, Australia to see you, not only did I know I was going to want to marry you, but you took me to a theater to see this film, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. I love...
That was the Rivoli, right? In Melbourne, Australia?
No, actually, it was the Astor, our cult cinema. The one where the seats crap. But the theater's good, and they do good popcorn.
Boy, were the people into this film when we went to go see it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, again, this is a different... Seeing this film, like, I saw this on the first day in the States. I was living in the States at the time, and I saw this on the first day. I think I might have been the only girl in the cinema, and there was a lot of guys. I love this film. I love it. It's camp. It's over the top. I love the director. I love his films. They're camp. They're over the top. It was, I can describe it. It had great dancing. It had great musical theatrics, and I got it. And I know a lot of people didn't. And it's funny how the difference between seeing a movie in the States and seeing the same movie in Australia, when it came out into Australia, we have two very well-respected reviewers, a woman and a guy. And the guy's quite, they love their sort of, she'll go the sort of, Lars von Trier movies and that. But he's quite reserved, and he loves Showgirls. It's one of his favourite movies all time because he got it. And I think knowing Paul Verhoeven as he is, if you go in with your tongue firmly in your cheek, you will respect Showgirls. And over time it has done. I mean, when it first came out, I feel sorry for her. Poor Elizabeth Berkley just got hammered for it. And it is hysterical watching her. But I think now, with watching the documentary that came out recently and her actually embracing yes, you don't know me with an N-O-M-I, which Kevin's now showing to me because he's got the Blu-ray, is now that she can embrace it as well. I think, and the weird thing with it is that she got hammered, but Gina Gershon just sailed through this movie. And I think it's the way she portrays it, because she played it like a drag queen. And she went on to do great things. She did Bound after this. She was in Face Off. And, but, everyone survived it. Everyone survived. Kyle MacLachlan went to do, Sex in the City. They all survived her.
So, Lee, did you see this when it first came out? It was a celebrated NC-17 rating.
This was the premiere event for our new theater in town. It was the first THX sound. It was the largest screen in Iowa for a good, I think, 4 or 5 years. And this was an event. And because it wouldn't play Carmike because it was NC-17, so we all went to see it opening night. And I remember this playing to a packed house, and we walked out, and it was a one theater house. Like, it was not a multiplex. They just had this one theater, and every seat was full. And then we had to weave our way through the lobby to get out because the lobby was full for the next show. And went with all my buddies from high school. One of the last times all of us got together. And God, this was stupid and wonderful. And it was, we grew up, I think Saved by the Bell came on when I was in 6th or 7th grade. So
Jesse Spano.
And we were all watching it, and it's like, hey, all right. Definitely a bit of a character switch, but I remember, I was 18 and I enjoyed it for the reasons an 18-year-old would. And then, recently listening to your guys' podcast on it and starting to rethink it, and broke out my copy. I did get the crazy special edition with the pin the tassels version. Just all the weird special crap. Yes, I did buy that, but this movie was way too stupid and way too much fun. I have been to the midnight shows where they give it the Rocky Horror treatment, where you yell stuff at the screen. I've seen people dancing along to this. We've all got the our showgirl dance move there, but so stupid and so fun. I love this one.
Kyle, did you see it opening weekend?
It never made it to the theater in Alaska. I think because of the NC-17 rating. We only had the one theater in my hometown.
Speak up a little bit. I can't
we never made it to the theater in Alaska. We only had the one theater in my hometown, and they refused to carry it because of the NC-17 rating. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see it till it actually came out on home video. And yes, like Lee said,
I'm so sorry.
Like Lee said, it's wonderfully stupid. But I figured it out about halfway through my first watching. The proper way to watch Showgirls, Kevin, is to load up on caffeine pills and then watch Showgirls.
Mm-hmm.
Saved by the Bell reference. Well done, sir.
I'm so scared.
I'm so excited. But here's the thing with this movie. This is one of those movies that's because it was so bad, it's become good. And it's become a cult classic, and it's become all of this. And I am glad in talking to Kevin, and when we talked about this on Culture Clash, that Elizabeth Berkley has finally been able to embrace this movie. That she's come to a point, because her career was destroyed by this film unfairly. You know, and let's be honest, the selling point was one of the hot girls from Saved by the Bell gets all grown up, and
she naked.
And I mean, I remember that first trailer, and every red-blooded American guy was, I'm in. But I mean, this movie has become appreciation. It's kind of got, I would say it's fair to say it's probably got that Rocky Horror Picture Show cult status going on. I think a lot of people still aren't going to watch this and completely get what's going on here. I like Aaron's point that Gina Gershon just sailed through this movie unscathed. That's because Gina Gershon is a queen and she knows it, and she just does her thing. But it's going to go down in Hollywood history, good and bad, and it's going to always have its own unique spot in cinematic history.
Because it made money.
Challenge anyone.
It made money, didn't it?
No. A budget of $45 million only grossed worldwide $20 million.
And they had a huge marketing campaign.
And I know it made a lot of money later on with video and stuff like that. And I actually have the Showgirls 15th anniversary Blu-ray version with it, so it's a little bit older version. But I challenge anyone that hasn't watched this movie in a while, or maybe even loves this movie, or because it's a guilty pleasure, to check out this documentary that Aaron mentioned called "You Don't Know Me," N-O-M-I, of course, named after the lead character. A great documentary by Jeffrey McHale. And it talks about this book that was released by the author, saying that basically this movie was a masterpiece. And of course, it sold well. The people behind the DVD Blu-ray releases had the author on to do a commentary to talk about it. And he talks about the filmography of Paul Verhoeven, a lot of the same themes that are in this film, Showgirls, and he goes into all of these films, the reason why the public didn't get it. And, and he talks about how many bad reviews just like torched this film. And then, as you mentioned, about how it hurt the career, of course, of, Jessie Spano. But she has come around to embrace it, and it's great. And I highly recommend this. It's out on Blu-ray. You can get it on Amazon. It just came out, I think, last month, actually.
If you compare the two that came out, so you've got Showgirls and then you had Striptease. And Striptease is so boring and so nothing. And literally it was just, it was another Demi Moore, I've had my boobs done, I'm going to show them off, And
I got paid $20 million. But
the thing is with it is that if you watch it, like if Elizabeth Berkley had played it in any other way, it wouldn't have worked because it would have been boring. It would have been Striptease. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, when you talk about she got roasted for her acting in this, and later on, Paul Verhoeven came out and says, you can blame me on that because I asked her to act over the top. She's doing that because I asked her to do it.
But I mean, if you look at it in any of his other films, if you go back in his films, like RoboCop is, again, it's over the top violence. You've got Total Recall. You've got, Basic Instinct. Look at Flesh and Blood. Hysterical. I mean, really, you've got The Plague, and you've got,
If you watch this documentary, they go over all of his films and explain his filmmaking and film style, and it brings a different light of Showgirls, and it kind of opens you up to what he was actually trying to do, because we were all blind to that because of the boobs that were in front of our face, basically. That's basically what it comes down to. And he has a great sense of humor about his work. This movie got nominated and won 7 Razzies, and he showed up to that ceremony and collected them all in person, if that tells you something. So, yeah, I mean, There you go, Showgirls, and that there ends the run here, of course, for July, August, and September. And of the top 10 grossing films, there's 2 of them that were in these months, and that was Se7en that actually came in at number 7, top 10. Go figure. And then Waterworld underneath it at number 9. So, but we got just a couple more things to talk about. After we come back. But first, we're going to take a break here and let you know what other great programs are under the Fandom Podcast Network umbrella. Enjoy. Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to the Fandom Podcast Network and all of the other awesome shows we have to offer. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, our weekly pop culture news podcast. Bloody Kings, our Highlander podcast. Couch Potato Theater, our podcast celebrating our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite pop culture topics. End Zone, the NFL podcast. Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville podcast. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our Doctor Who podcast. Lethal Mullet, a 1980s and 90s action film podcast. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast. And our newest show, Making Treks, a new Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. You can enjoy all of these great Fandom Podcast Network shows on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. Fandom Podcast Network is also on Apple Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can also find us on Facebook under Fandom Podcast Network. You can also email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter under Fandom Podcast Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom. All right, welcome back to Time Warp 1995, the movies 25 years later. This is part 3 of 4. We just talked about all of the movies that came out during the late summer and beginning of the early fall there. But we like to kind of talk about the other films that went straight to video, as we call our B-movie, drive-in, or straight to VHS, Laserdisc, or Skinamax theater. In this segment, we'll highlight a few movies that didn't quite make it into pop culture and have been buried in the black hole of 1999 movie library. And I want to thank Kyle for bringing these all from his personal collection to talk about. So the first one I want to talk about real quick is called Spitfire, starring Lance Hendrickson and Deborah Jo Fondren. A sultry assassin is the target of 2 separate operatives in the globe-trotting action flick shot in location in the Bahamas, Athens, Rome, and Hong Kong. We've also got Automatic. Oliver Grunier. Robogen Industries' newest security system is the J-Series Automatic, an android model designed and programmed to protect humans from violent attack. We also have Temptress, starring Kim Delaney, Chris Sarandon, and Corbin Burnson. Karen Swan brings a statue home from her travels to Asia and soon begins to have a strange effect on her. Also, we've got Black Day, Blue Night, starring Gil Bellows, Michelle Forbes, and Mia Sara. The disgruntled wife of a cheating husband takes off on a road trip with her husband's mistress. And this one here, Lee, I got to ask you, I kind of want to see this. I never have. Soldier Boys with a Z at the end. A group of prisoners are going to Vietnam to rescue the daughter of a VIP. The ones who survived get their freedom back, but hell awaits them. Starring Michael Dudikoff, Cary Hiroyuki. Kyle?
How is there not a Michael Dudikoff film you haven't seen?
I know, right?
Yeah, this was getting towards the end of his run. Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was getting a little dead air in there. This was kind of towards the end of his run. He's actually playing a soldier instead of a ninja in this one. So definitely an interesting one. You can't go wrong with Cary Tagawa. Of course, is magnum opus earlier in the year in Mortal Kombat. So much fun. But I did want to go back. I have a certain amount of love for Spitfire, Deborah Jo Fondren.
Deborah Jo Fondren.
The year I was born. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I got to throw a little love.
Yeah,
but, that was actually her last acting role.
I got to throw a little love towards Temptress and also Black Day, Blue Night because me and Sarah.
Yeah, I did not see that, but oh man,
Kevin's going to make a point to go see it now.
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah, but there's a couple others here I want to mention. I want to mention Droid Gunner. In the future, the street of global takeover by cyborg units have forced Earth to outlaw their use, starring Mark Singer. And last but not least, No Contest. Andrew Dice Clay takes over a hotel during a beauty pageant, taking several pageant contestants hostage since one of them is a rich senator's daughter. Also starring Shannon Tweed and Robert Davey. How did I miss this, Lee?
I'm kind of wondering myself because I thought I saw the entire Andrew Dice Clay filmography, including Brain Smasher: A Love Story. I didn't realize there was one that I had missed.
I guess I'm gonna bet these they never went to DVD. I think VHS and Laserdisc if we're lucky here. So. Anyway, that is it for the B-movie drive-in there, but let's get back to 1995, the more theatrical releases here. Final thoughts. Aaron, let's start with you. Thank you again for coming back on Time Warp. And 1995, you were living in the States, and you get to see a lot of these in Hollywood. Man's Chinese Theater was one of them. This is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me back on again. Yeah, I mean, some of it I didn't see, but some of the big ones of my... all-time favorite movies are in this block, and Se7en and Showgirls, and seeing them in Hollywood is a total highlight of my movie life. So yeah, no, great stuff. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was great seeing movies in the States is a bit different to seeing movies in Australia. We're quite quiet, where you guys actually, you'll call out and you'll clap and you'll cheer and stuff like that. So it was a great time and great movie making. There was some really amazing films came out.
Yeah, 90s had a great run, and this was one of them. Lee, you obviously were working in a movie theater, so you got to see a lot of the reactions from the crowd. You put these movies together. I got to imagine it's a pretty interesting time to be in the movie theater time and seeing these movies coming out and realizing some weren't always coming out to the theaters you wanted.
Yeah, this was just I've been very lucky in my life to have been parts of some stuff like this. And this was just a string of movies from, basically January to December that are still, important culturally, whether for, kind of the mockery reasons or because they're just that good of a movie. Stuff that's important to me and my friends because they meant everything to us when we were young. In the next segment, we've got two of my top 10 favorite movies coming up. Yeah. And, I should probably say that Desperado is another one of those in there, but so many great movies from this. And I'm just lucky that I got to see all of them for free whenever I wanted to. If, in between, when we'd be doing theater checks, I would just sit in some of these movie theaters for 10 minutes and just watch, great stuff happening. It was such a great time to be working in a movie theater.
I can only imagine, especially the free part. Because, Kyle, I was lucky enough. I was growing up here in Santa Barbara, obviously, during this time. I was 24 going on 25, very impressionable with movies, getting more excited about the process behind the camera and movie making as well. And in downtown Santa Barbara, we had, 1, 2, 3, 4 different theaters. You could drive a little bit further to another one. We knew there were some theaters that would show certain movies like Showgirls we knew was going to hit one theater, not the other one, but you were up there in Alaska. You didn't get a chance to see all of these in the theater, but obviously you would go to your movie rental place, so you had your chance to see them. But was there a lot of people interested in going to the movies right away if they were playing there?
Yes and no. 95 is a weird year for me because 95 is the year I did finally move to Florida, and I moved at the end of August, beginning of September. And going through this, it kind of gives me a timestamp because To Die For was actually one of the first films I saw after I had moved down here.
Oh, in Florida.
So
gotcha.
that kind of stood out. And so when I look at 95, and especially even just in the small segment we've done here, you got so many movies that have importance, but the types of movies are just all over the map. There's not, unlike other years that we've talked about where you've had like those one or two just big movies that kind of swallow up the year. You don't have that really in 95. And it's just a weird dichotomy of different types of films and balance between the films. You have something like Desperado, and then you go to something like Showgirls or Se7en. It made 95 a very fun and intriguing movie year. And as we gear up for the final part of 95, we have some of even the more intriguing films and some of the greatest films of the modern movie era coming up. And it's going to be so fun to finish off this year and dive into it.
Yeah, and speaking of, so next time we're going to be talking part 4, and we're going to cover movies such as Strange Days, Get Shorty, Mallrats, Leaving Las Vegas, The American President, GoldenEye, Casino, Toy Story, Heat, Jumanji, 12 Monkeys, and Sabrina. It's funny, too, because I remember going to a private screening of an early version of 12 Monkeys, and it was the first time I did that, and you had to answer questions and give your opinion on it and stuff, and it was interesting. But Lee, you teased about one of your favorite movies in this list. Which one that's coming up?
Get Shorty.
Get Shorty, yeah. One. I thought so.
I would put this in my top 3 favorite movies.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And it's just, it hit me the right way. It is a love letter to making movies. It's Travolta at his best as Travolta.
Yeah.
You know, he was surprised and in love with it, and he wasn't capitalizing on it just yet, like he would in Face Off and Broken Arrow. This is just really Travolta realizing that he had something special and doing something amazing with it. I even liked the sequel that nobody liked, Be Cool.
The Rock.
But yeah, Scorchin.
Aaron, of these films coming up, was there one that you were excited about seeing?
Oh, well, I mean, Strange Days, because I had big hots for Ray Fiennes. And, the rest of it, I think just one we did was my section. And there's not, I mean, there's good movies in there, but there's nothing I would sit there and go, eh.
2 ones I'm interested in talking about are American President and Heat. Those were probably my favorites there, but yeah. Kyle?
Talk some GoldenEye, because this was this might be one of those times where it was just Bond went to a weird place, and Toy Story changed a lot for Disney and for a lot of things. And if we're going to talk Heat, does this mean the guys from The Ringer are going to end up showing up?
I know, right? Talk about Heat for the 3rd time. Yes.
So just going back
I was in the stage version of Toy Story.
But hold on one second. Aaron, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just going back. Is it GoldenEye one of those things where the game was better than the film?
I was going to
say that. Yes. Lee, what were you saying about the stage version of Toy Story?
Just like I did for Dodgeball and a couple other movies, I did a stage version of Toy Story.
Who did you play?
I was Sarge.
Nice.
Because I can do a pretty good R. Lee Ermey impression. And I was also the dog.
Slinky Dog.
Slinky Dog. And I was, everybody kind of did a background voice for the little aliens. Oh, the claw.
Nice.
He chooses who stays and who goes. But we have a drinking game theater up here in the Twin Cities. It's obviously been on a hiatus for a while, but we'll just take a classic movie, get really drunk and perform it. And it's just a lot of fun.
Lee's theater experience is quite extensive and very entertaining. So, yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much. Aaron, as always, thank you again for coming on Time Warp. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Hopefully next time I'm on, I'll be out of lockdown.
Yeah.
And just put a spanner in the works. I just had a look on Facebook. Blair's just about to go and see Tenant.
Yeah, you lucky bastard. Getting to go to the theater. Lee, thank you again for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, I would not miss the movies in 1995. This is like my year.
And I'd love to go back to the theater on a regular basis, so I'm a little jealous there of Blair. But Kyle, thanks again. Always talking movies. I love you, brother.
And I live here. What can I say?
Thank you all so much for joining us on this special presentation of Fandom Podcast Network's Time Warp Part 3 of 1995. Until next time, I'm Kevin, and I will see you in 1995. Goodbye, everybody.